founder Abraham Penn taught a valuable lesson that has been part of a tradition since 1919 when he said, "I'd rather make a friend than make a sale." For more than 90 years, Puritan has been making friends as a unique family-owned company right here in Cape Cod. At Puritan Cape Cod on 199 Main Street, as well as Chatham, Mashpee, and Hyannis, you'll find the latest in men's and women's clothing, as well as ski and tennis equipment, and much more. Puritan Cape Cod, 548-0116, or PuritanCapeCod.com.
Internet services provided by Cape.com Incorporated. Established in 1994, Cape.com is the only locally owned and operated internet service provider on Cape Cod. Our specialties include e-commerce applications and design, wide area networking services, and high-speed DSL internet access throughout eastern Massachusetts. Cape.com continues to lead the way with cutting-edge applications, superior networking services, and quality customer support. For more information, visit us at www.cape.com or call us at 539-9500.
Welcome to the October 6th meeting of the Falmouth Board of Selectmen. I invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we begin, we have a certificate of appreciation that we would like to forward to the Falmouth newcomers, an encore of Falmouth. This is their 30th anniversary, which is really hard to believe. Is there anybody here from newcomers? Oh, yes, good. I'm glad you're here. I will give this to Doug to read so that we can sign it and get it to you for your luncheon on, what, Saturday is it?
3 weeks.
On 3 weeks, yeah. Okay, October. Whatever. Forget.
A certificate of appreciation given to Falmouth newcomers and encore Falmouth newcomers in recognition of your 30 years of dedication to fostering friendship and service to the town of Falmouth. The certificate is awarded by the Falmouth Board of Selectmen this 6th day of October. Mary Pat Flynn, Doug Jones, Rebecca Moffett, Susan Moran, and Samuel Patterson. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And we do congratulate you for a great job. I remember just a few years ago, I had the pleasure of being at a newcomers luncheon, and I was just astounded at the number of members that you have. It's really amazing. It's great. Yeah. And so now you have the regular newcomers in the encore group. That's great. Well, congratulations for all your work. Next on our agenda is public comment. So is there anyone here who would like to speak on any matter that is not on the agenda? Yes, Paula Lichter.
Hi, I'm Paula Lichter from the Heights and Vice President of the Falmouth Heights Mira Vista Improvement Association. There is something on the agenda tonight that I'm not going to be speaking specifically about, but the issue is about summary of action. It's always been our understanding that summary of action has been used for the Board of Selectmen to vote on events that have been approved in the past, and that when they come up for repeat approval year after year and there's nothing different, it doesn't really need a public hearing. However, in the past couple of years, we've had 3 very large events in the Heights that have come up under summary of action when the event has changed. Either a liquor license has been added or it's been a first-time event. And so I would just ask the Board of Selectmen if that is the policy, as we've been told that summary of action is for repeat items only, we would assume that, or we would request that it be used as such in the future.
Okay, thank you.
And then anything else go under the hearing part of the agenda. Okay, thank you.
Well, I will deal with the response when we get to the summary of
Sure.
actions.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we'll take up is there anyone else who would like to speak under public comment? Okay, then we will move to the minutes of the meeting of September 22nd, public session.
I would move approval of the minutes of the public session of September 22nd, 2014.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. The next set of minutes are for September 8th. I think I'll split these. September 8th, and that's an executive session.
I move approval of the executive session minutes from September 8th and vote to not release. I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And next would be the executive session minutes of September 22nd.
I would move approval of the September 22nd executive session minutes and vote to not release.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Now I've come to the summary of actions. If you will notice on the agenda, the summary of actions has 3 categories. The first category are licenses, and that's and a license usually means an alcoholic license or a common victualer's license, but it could be a different type of license. Sometimes that might create a public hearing, but sometimes it could be listed under licenses. So anything related to alcohol is listed under licenses. The second category are administrative orders, and these usually they deal with business items for the town, environmental issues, public works projects, grants, any number of things can come under administrative orders. And then the last category is special events. And special events, we do have now a working group that reviews requests for special events. And they are either new events, which have not been held before, or they are recurring events, which are repeated. We have them every year. And then we usually have a recommendation from the working group regarding these. Sometimes they will recommend a new event, or they may not recommend a recurring event for some reason. But sometimes certain events happen to come up, and we haven't gotten, this is fairly new, this process was just started last summer. So everybody isn't totally aware of it yet, so we have to give a little leeway to some of the applicants who don't know about the events committee, and if they wait too late, we don't want to cut them off for the year and say, no, you didn't get it in time, the events committee couldn't do it, so you have to wait till next year. We don't really want to be that harsh with the application. So sometimes you may see an event on here that has not gone through the special events committee, and that's because I would call it a hardship application. Hopefully next year they will be smarter and they will get their applications in appropriately. So that's essentially what the summary of actions are. And in the first category of licenses, we have 5 requests. 3 of them have to do with a change in the Mass General Law that allows a change of hours for all alcoholic package store licenses on Sunday. They can open earlier. The first is a request for a change of Sunday hours of all alcoholic package store license, which is Kenyon's Market at 769 East Falmouth Highway. The second is approve a request for change of Sunday hours of all alcoholic package store license, which is the T-Ticket Market, Inc., 125 T-Ticket Highway. And the third is a request for a change of Sunday hours of all alcoholic package store license, that's hard to say, Norman's Liquors, Inc., 21 Spring Bars Road, Falmouth. So if the board would care to make a motion on these 3 licenses, is there anyone here who represents those organizations who might like to say something? Yes. Nice to see you again.
Good evening. I'm Richard Lemoyne. I'm the co-owner of Kenyon's Market. My wife and I, Joanne, own the store. This 2 hours, I don't think it'll make a major impact this time of year, but I believe in the summertime, at 12 noon, might start at 10 o'clock. We have a lot of people coming and looking for alcohol and stuff like that. They're going fishing and everything. So I think this is, it won't hurt anybody or help anybody particularly, but I think it's a good thing for the convenience of the customers and the community. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Anybody else who represents one of those three? Would the board, someone like to make a motion?
I would move the approval of the request from the three organizations. And my understanding is it really is a notification of the change of hours.
Right.
That we do need to approve them anyway.
Right.
I will move that approval.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next is the request for a change of manager at Green Pond Yacht Club, Inc., 470 Acapesket Road and 366 Minot Road. Is anyone here from Green Pond? Yes, Ms. Moynihan.
Thank you, Mrs. Flynn. Laura Moynihan. I'm an attorney for the record. I represent the applicant. This is a request for a change of manager to Mr. Harry Turner, who is essentially the sole shareholder of the corporation which owns the license. He owns and operates the marina as well. It's on site. He unfortunately fell ill suddenly tonight and did want to be here and was not able to come. So it's a change for him to be the named manager on the license. He's always been completely involved in the organization anyway and is there on site. So we're asking for that approval.
I have two questions. One is, no in the application does it actually list his residence, that he's a Falmouth resident or lives in the area?
Yes, he lives on Squibnocket Road in East Falmouth, yes.
And he's also the president of the organization, so is he overseeing himself as the manager?
Yes, it's a club license. He's the president of the organization. There is, however, a board of directors of the club, so there is a team of managers, in essence, of the entire organization. There's a vice commodore and then fleet captains, 8 or 9 fleet captains, social chairman, a treasurer, and a secretary. So there are a number of people involved in overseeing the entire operation.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this isn't a hearing, this is just a change of manager. So would anyone care to make a motion to approve a change of manager?
I would move approval of the change of manager to Harry Turner for the Green Pond Yacht Club.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And the last, did you want to take that, excuse me, did you want to take, behind you, Laura, the certificate with you tonight, or do you want us to send it back to them? You could take it? Okay. Okay. You're welcome very much. All right, the last is a request for a one-day liquor license for Triumph Management, which is Lennon Fest at the Falmouth Heights Ball Field on Sunday, October 12th, 2014. Is there anyone here who would, yes, would you like to speak to that? Okay. Just state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Musher.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Did you want to talk about
I'm looking to get a one-day license for Lennon Fest. It's our 8th Lennon Fest. We've decided to change our charity, and we're working with the Falmouth Fireworks Committee. The proceeds from the Lennon Fest go to our charity of choice. This year it's the Falmouth Fireworks. We're looking to have a beer tent. We have fencing, tents. We'll have tip-certified employees serving the beer. We'll have wristbands for 21 and over to be only allowed in the tent. No alcohol outside the tent.
Is this new this year?
It
That's
is.
what I thought.
Yep.
You didn't have a beer tent before?
No, we've talked about it every year since, and I said to the owners this year around, I said, let's just go ask. Let's, Everybody, if it's a beautiful day, everybody wants to be outside, the band's playing. So-
Now, you understand that there would have to be fencing
Right, we do
around
have
that.
fencing.
And an entrance,
Right, there's
and
one
then-
entrance, one exit.
one entrance, one exit, the same, in and
Right,
out.
there'll be security,
And do you have a way of tagging people or stamping
wristbands,
wrist stamps?
and we'll be IDing, yep.
Okay.
I've done these before in the past, we've had great success, and we thought it would be fun, a fun addition. It's a family event, it's not,
And how many people do you expect would be there?
we start around noon, and then until about 5 o'clock. So it's all day, families are in and out. It's a family event, we do face painting, pumpkin carving, or pumpkin decorating, dunk tanks, we have the moon bouncies, human bowling, trying to think of this, just fun family time. The band sets up and they play all afternoon for a Beatles tribute band. Just try to have a little fun.
So it ends at 5 PM?
Yes.
Becky?
I think in one of our other requests at North Falmouth for the Montessori picnic they're having, there was a request at that point that if you had one of those bouncy houses, that needed to be reported. As we would go through our paper, they were asking, they said that on the application it hadn't been noted. And you're planning to have a bouncy house of some type for children?
Yes.
All right, I'll look for that. It's,
Okay.
that would be the only thing. It was just a comment that there's another issue once that is, once we agree with it.
Yeah, I think, in that same matter, I think the question was whether there was insurance and whether it was operated by somebody who was experienced in managing that. Is that going to be
Yes.
sublet to a
18
contract?
years and older.
Pardon me?
The staff that's working the event they all volunteer, but they're 18 and over. It being we have the covered insurance, but I'm not sure if it's on public, it being on the park, if our insurance carries over to that, that's.
Well, it's that particular amusement
Right.
apparatus, I guess, because of the potential of children bumping into each other and doing some kind of damage to each other inadvertently, not
Right.
maliciously. But you would need some kind of liability insurance to cover that sort of situation. The town is concerned about protecting itself.
Right.
And you should be concerned about protecting yourself.
Absolutely. It's never come up in the 8 years we've done it, so this is new to me. I can certainly look into it with the Lennon Fest this Sunday. We'd probably just opt not to have it, because we probably won't have time if we have to have.
I can read this from the other activity.
Okay.
It was, all inflatables should be inspected by the town building department before they are used, and a copy of the state inspection and insurance policy from the company providing the inflatables for the event must be provided to the town before the event takes place.
Okay.
And this is coming from Diane.
From the office, yeah. Because of the
Absolutely.
you're familiar with
Seen
what
it
you
on the
hear on the
news.
press about injuries with
Right.
kids in those inflatables.
I can get on that tomorrow and get the proper paperwork.
Okay. And then we'll just make sure that we have to have it in by 5 PM on Friday.
Sure.
Otherwise, someone will be
Do you
getting
have a list of
4:30.
of requirements that I'll need? That way I can check.
Well,
out
you
as I
would
go.
have checked that off on your application, as you would have stated. On your application, you're saying what you plan to have. What activities?
Right.
Such as you said.
You know what, I
face
can't
painting.
remember what was checked off.
Well, I'll look at yours.
Thank you. Thank
Okay. And see.
Okay,
Okay.
excellent.
All right.
Okay. Did anybody in the audience want to say? Yes, Howard?
Howard Grosser, live at 313 Grand Ave in Falmouth Heights, current president of Falmouth Heights Marist Improvement Association. As we just heard, for 7 years, last 7 years, the Lennon Fest has been held. It has always been alcohol-free. For those same 7 years, the event has always been supported by the neighborhood. It's a terrific event. It is well organized, it's creative, it's fun. We heard the word family-friendly several times. That is true. It is to us the definition of what constitutes an entirely appropriate event to hold on public property. This is the first year that the liquor license is being requested. And I don't know of any neighbor who's concerned about tips, trains, employees, or snow fencing, or tents, or the other safeguards associated with alcohol service. It's the presence of alcohol itself. The concern is that the addition of alcohol changes the nature of the event, the atmosphere created by the event. It will be, I think by definition, somewhat less family-friendly. Some attendees inside snow fencing, some outside snow fencing. It is, by definition, less inclusive. It makes the event more appropriate for the county fairgrounds, less appropriate for the ball field in the Falmouth Heights neighborhood. So I'd ask the board to support the event, but not the liquor license associated with it. Thanks.
Andy?
Adrian Dufresne, resident of Precinct 2. We took a strong position on the event that was requested last summer against another alcohol license in a residential area. If it's going to be the policy of the board to grant licenses on ball fields in residential areas, then I think you should make it all across town. You know, North Falmouth has a nice ball field, Woods Hole has a nice ball field. Falmouth Heights is already tremendously impacted with both the fireworks and the road race. We've accepted these events as family events. And we do know that we have 3 liquor licenses in Falmouth Heights under special permit, very strong, regulated special permits. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to you talk about a fence and all of the indications that you guys think it's okay to issue another license with the British Beer on one side and the casino on the other, and the Shantyville that wanted an extension on their entertainment that we took offense to. Falmouth Heights is a highly dense populated residential area. I now refer to it as the high rent district. We have some beautiful homes up there. We have some people that like to live in Falmouth Heights. If we start making it a policy that we're going to issue alcohol licenses, we have no problem with family events on the ball field. We have no problem with family events on Worcester Park or any other of the, I think, a half a dozen parks that we own in Falmouth Heights that the town of Falmouth takes care of. But we did take a strong position last summer, and I think we brought it to the attention of this Board of Selectmen, that as a residential neighborhood, the Falmouth Heights Mara Vista Association's peoples do not feel that another issue of an alcohol sales license is in the best interest of Falmouth Heights. I've lived in Falmouth Heights for 55 years, and we've had these family events, never had a problem. We start issuing liquor license, we go back to having problems, and we've had enough problems 40 years ago. I've said my piece. I hope you people rationalize where this ball field is and what the purpose is, and I have no idea what their purpose is. If it's to do something for kids, that's fine. Let's do it without liquor. Thank you.
I was just going to point out that you will notice that we approved this Lennon Fest sometime before when it was approved, I believe, by the events committee. But this request just came in on the 25th for the liquor, and I think you explained, Jackie, why this is now a late request. So this isn't something that we considered at the time that we approved the event. And it's true that they have not served alcohol at these events in the past. And the board does have the discretion to decide which way it chooses to go on this matter. So I just want to point out that those are the facts that we have in front of us. Is there anybody else who wanted to comment before the board begins to deliberate? No. So Doug, you wanted to say something, and then Becky.
One of the forms mentioned refers to this as the British Beer Company's Lennon Fest.
Correct.
Are they the ones sponsoring it?
Yes.
It doesn't say that on the application, and I find that I'm a little bit confused by that. Or is that Management, is that the business name of
Yes,
British?
the Triumph Management is who I work for, who oversees the British Beer Company.
Okay. I'm also concerned with the timetable of this, is that this is an event that's gone on for 7 years, and to be getting an application for additional liquor license, 3 weeks before the event is just too late for me even to, I would want to take this very seriously and consider it, and I just think it's too close to the time.
Becky?
I think the point that when we were discussing it on the first application, and realizing that it was British beer, I think at that point, I just assumed it was an adult affair. And I didn't think about it as being family and children. And now when I'm rereading this next application I don't have as much an issue about people having alcohol somewhere, but I certainly do when it mixes with children.
Okay.
And I think just the title of it infers it's not family. I just don't see the children part of it.
It's a festival, and it's an outside festival on the green, and families come. Families come to any event we have. We're a family-friendly restaurant, so it was meant for, to be our themed event, Lennon Fest, to raise money for whatever charity we chose, which has always been the Falmouth Food Bank. This year we chose the fireworks committee to get involved with what they're doing and their struggles raising money. So it was just an afterthought. Because I've done it so many times, I said, well, let's just see if we can get an application in. It got in a little late.
Okay, so if this would be the 8th year, and it's the first year with alcohol?
Right.
So then I think you do know how everything happens and how much money you make without the alcohol.
Right.
Okay, all right.
I think the other thing is that if someone does want to get a beer during the fest, they can go to the casino or the British Beer Company and get a drink and then come back out and enjoy some more. So there's some places where we grant the license, and there's not easy access to getting a beer during the festival. For instance, at the Cape Cod Fairgrounds, there's no place to do it. Here, there's easy opportunity if that becomes something that they were very interested in doing.
Well, I only asked because the Falmouth Road Race Committee was granted their beer and wine license, as I was told. And that's the only reason why we brought it up. We thought it was something, again, the road race is a family event as well. And I sympathize with the residents of Falmouth Heights. I can only imagine what those days, the fireworks and the road race bring to the mayhem of their lives. I can imagine. But again, we weren't trying to turn an family event or any event into mayhem. We just wanted to add to it and raise a little more money. So.
Somebody refresh my memory. Now, the road race didn't have alcohol on the day of the road race,
Right.
after the race. It must have been an event prior to that.
I believe it was because it rained. They had to cancel everything.
What?
On the Falmouth fireworks.
Oh, there was the fireworks event,
Right, I'm
yes.
sorry, yes,
And
the
it wasn't,
fireworks.
they just pulled back on it when they realized it wasn't a very good idea at the time.
That
Or
was the
maybe
only-
not a good idea, but for a number of reasons, it wasn't, I guess, they didn't have enough time to plan it the way they wanted to plan it, and so they pulled back on it, so it never
Okay.
happened.
That's why it came up with us.
Yeah.
Because we were preparing for that day as well. So it came up that that would have affected our business to have alcohol across the street. We were for it. It's, obviously the more the merrier for us. Again, it's the only reason why it was brought up, but we thought it was a good addition to our charity event, so.
So, what is the pleasure?
I move to deny the liquor license and to amend the original permit to not have the bouncy house.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
So, any discussion on the motion?
I guess I was thinking those as two different motions. I certainly would deny the request on the liquor license. If they have the licensing that they need and approval from the planning board, I guess I wasn't going to have as much of a problem with either the moonwalk or whatever the inflatable things are. That we have requirements that are necessary to allow them if they're licensed and insured.
I think the proponent said that they wouldn't have time to get
do
the
Oh, no,
required.
for the bouncy house?
Right.
I can contact the company tomorrow. And I'll use 5 o'clock Friday.
So we can amend it with the same requirements that Rebecca read.
Right, and that's the town requirements, it's
In
That
talking
they have to
about,
meet the
limits of
requirements
the town, yeah.
in order to have the house.
And I can change my motion.
Okay. So-
I think it's presenting a negative motion. It needs to be presented in a positive way with a negative vote, if that's the way that it goes, rather than present a negative motion.
Well, she made a motion to deny the license.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
That's an appropriate, yeah, it's an appropriate motion to make.
Right.
Oh, right. Did you want to change your motion?
I'm going to amend it to just deny the license.
A second.
So the motion is to deny the license.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have a motion and a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's unanimous.
Okay.
I think-
Now,
On the matter of the bouncy house or this kind of inflatable, I mean, I think we've given them notice that they have to comply with
With-
the regulations associated with it. So that responsibility is now in your hands, right? So you really shouldn't have it there unless you're fully,
Right,
in
and I will not.
compliance.
yeah.
Let me ask you, if and when I do get all the paperwork, will there be someone come in to inspect? So I won't
Yes.
have any issues? Okay,
Yeah.
great, we'll get on it tomorrow.
Yeah, and the other thing I would suggest, when you make your applications earlier in the year, next year for the Special Events Committee,
Absolutely.
if you want to do that again, then I think you should include it in the original application. All of
Absolutely.
it, the bouncy house or the liquor license or what have you, and have the Events Committee review that as well.
Excellent.
Okay?
Will do.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
May I just clarify,
Organizing your event?
just for the record, that anything to brought in on Friday, we would need to have by 4:30.
Oh, by
Rather
4:30, I
than
said
5
5,
o'clock.
but it's 4:30.
Yes,
On
absolutely.
Friday.
Won't be a problem. I'll
Thank
have
you.
it before then.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dufresne.
May I make one last comment? Again, Adrian Dufresne, I'd like to thank the board for their consideration of Falmouth Heights as a residential area. And would it be possible for, in the event that another request comes up for a license on the ball field in Falmouth Heights, that consideration be given to the president and vice president of the Falmouth Heights Association? We don't want to be complaining. We love family events, and we thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to administrative orders. The first is to vote the final draft of the amended TWMP and direct the town manager to include it with the submissions due on the October 15th application for the sewer relief fund loan from the state. Now, I will preface this by saying at least 4 of the selectmen attended the meeting of the Water Quality Management Committee last Monday night here in this room, where they went over this document. I have to hold it up so you know what it is. It's the revised draft of the amended targeted watershed management plan for Little Pond, and this is what they spent 3 hours on last Monday night, and 4 of us were here, so we heard it in great detail. So I think we can say that when we take the vote tonight, we will be very confident that we understand exactly what's in this plan and what the amendments are to the plan. Doug?
There were a few edits that were mentioned that night. I thought that the committee was then going to try to meet again on Thursday, and I was just wondering, is the draft taken into, I think Mr. Zweig had a number of minor little details that were worked out. Are these taking that into account, or?
They did not meet on Thursday.
But these were, that Jerry and Sia
But-
were able to.
Jerry, you can speak to
those
that,
edits.
would you?
Jerry Patamas, wastewater superintendent. I think it was a matter of timing. We have to get you documents by Thursday. The committee would meet till Thursday night. We went line by line, and I think it was to be an abundance of care to make sure we didn't mis-edit something. I think most of the edits are fairly straightforward. There was a couple that added assurance for additional public participation on inlet widening that was included. So I feel comfortable that the substantive parts of this targeted watershed amendment have met. We sent an edited version to the consultant. He exchanged emails both with the vice chair, Sia. I stayed out of it because I never catch a misspelling if it's my own name, but everything else should be as intended.
Well, I think just to pretty well summarize what the changes were. They were really in response to the state. The state wanted more information on how the town would address these watersheds if, in fact, the targeted nitrogen removal did not occur as planned. Is that fair to say? And so these amendments now address that. So what are you going to do if this happens? So what will you do if that happens? And this amendment really deals with that. So it gives us the plan that we originally had going forward, but it also gives us some options if the monitoring goes forward in the plans and it doesn't quite exactly work out as planned. We have other options that we can use that the state will approve and be happy about. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, what happened.
And I just want to add that the committee, in going line by line, was very responsive to the members of the various neighborhoods who attended, and there was a nice give and take in really crafting the document. So I just want to thank the neighbors and everyone who participated.
Anybody else like to comment? No? Anybody in the audience wish to comment? All right, then I'll accept a motion.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
Point of order? The point was made during that meeting that there were really two pieces of this that the Board of Selectmen had to kind of approve, and I wanted to make sure there was a clarification. I don't know whether Eric Turkington can do that for us, but was one the actual comprehensive water management plan, and the other one this targeted water management plan? And I know it's all something we have to do to qualify for that 0% access to the state revolving fund.
Madam Chair, I might be able to clarify, or take a stab at it if I may, Selectman. The two pieces, I believe, are one is to vote this revised draft, final draft that is before the board this evening, and the second is to authorize or direct me to file the state revolving fund application. So to try and qualify for the state revolving loan, potentially as low as 0%, depending upon what we hear back. So I think those are the two pieces, as I understand it.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I would do it as two. I would move that we approve the final draft of the amended TWMP.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
And I would also move that we direct the town manager to include our amended TWMP with our application for the SRF loan.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Great.
Thank you very much.
You're on your way.
Hard work.
We are on our way, right? Great. Okay, the next item is to approve a request to submit a community innovation challenge grant to the state. And who wants?
Madam Chair, yes, there are two components to this, and I'll ask my colleague Heather Harper to comment on those both for consideration by the board.
Okay. Heather.
Okay. There are two requests. The first comes in from the Cape Cod Commission, which is a regional request, but I believe they're requesting $120,000 to help them establish their strategic information office. They've applied for these funds for the last 3 years, have been awarded the last 2. This is their third request. It does require a vote of the Board of Selectmen to authorize the town manager to sign in support of that regional application. In addition, the town of Falmouth is submitting its own application. We'll be requesting the full funds available, which is $500,000. It's ambitious, but that's what's available under the program for our single internal efficiency program, and that is to support the unified communication center and combined police fire dispatch.
Great. Anybody have any comments or discussion on that? Want to make a motion?
The second one is one we had applied previously.
Correct.
We were not awarded, and so it's applying again to try again and see if the money comes through.
Right.
Correct.
So it's something we have discussed and approved before.
Okay, so a motion?
I would move approval of the request to submit the 2 grant applications to the CIC.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Next, we want to vote an agreement with OCW Retail, which happens to be the Falmouth Mall, LLC, to convey a parcel and an easement for the sewer lift station on Spring Bars Road. Frank, is that something you wanted to
Yes.
take up? Thank you.
There's actually 2 things on the agenda. The next item should probably be discussed at the same time. You want to announce it also?
I'm sorry,
There are 2 items on the agenda about this subject. I think it'd be easier if they were both discussed at the same time.
okay.
So if you want to
The easement and the lift station?
And acceptance of the
And
parcel.
acceptance of the...
Oh, the second one, 4, discuss and vote acceptance of the parcel and the easement for the sewer lift station. One is to convey the parcel, and the second one is to accept
Well,
it.
the first one is to have an agreement for the conveyance of the parcel, and the second one is to accept the conveyance.
Okay.
This is an agreement which I distributed on your table before the meeting started. It's an agreement to convey a parcel of land for a sewer lift station with OCW Retail Falmouth LLC, which I didn't know until recently is the corporate name of the Falmouth Mall. Ray Jack has been negotiating this contract with the Falmouth Mall folks for some time. I got involved about maybe 3-4 weeks ago on the final drafts of the documents, but I put a map on the wall over here, and if I just may give you a little orientation, it's fairly simple. You have the Falmouth Mall here. This is the mall building. This is the parking lot. Down here we have the entrance to the Falmouth Mall from Spring Bars Road. Over here is the Falmouth Mercantile Center over there, but I think there's a restaurant over there, a few other things. And right over here, there's a small parcel of land designated parcel A2, which is the parcel that's referenced in the agreement. It contains 5,998 square feet. It's part of the mall that abuts Spring Bars Road. And that is a parcel of land that will be donated by the Falmouth Mall for the lift station. There is also abutting that parcel A2, another smaller area which is designated as a sewer easement, and it's right here, contains about 1,800 square feet. And that is an easement. We're not receiving title for that, we're just getting rights to use it. That is where the actual connection will be made from the mall to the lift station. But the parcel A2 will belong to the town of Falmouth. The connection will belong to the mall. So if I just may highlight some of the provisions of this agreement. Again, as I just mentioned to you, the town will be receiving a parcel of land which contains 5,998 square feet. There'll be no monetary consideration between the parties for this transaction. We're going to receive a deed for non-monetary consideration. There'll be an appurtenant easement over the 1,800 square foot easement area, which will be used solely for the connection. That's where the Falmouth Mall will connect, and they will bring their pipes from all parts of the mall right to this point at their expense. We're going to try and put together this transaction December 15th, although there'll be an understanding that we will do it earlier if possible. The reason we are asking, or Falmouth Mall is asking that you sign this agreement is they have to undertake certain steps to prepare to transfer this parcel to the town. One of the things they have to do is they have to go before the planning board to have a plan approved creating this lot. They intend to do it under the approval not required plan of the subdivision control law. They also have to go before the zoning board of appeals to amend any number of special permits and variances that were previously granted to allow the construction of the mall, to make sure that by severing this parcel from their total parcel, they're not creating any zoning variances or nonconformities that would not be acceptable. So they want to get the zoning board of appeals to sign off on this. Finally, they want to go to the Cape Cod Commission to make sure that they're not triggering any adverse consequences that might be imposed by any of the conditions of their previous approval from the Cape Cod Commission. When the parcel A2 is conveyed to the town, it will belong to us, and that will be where we will site the sewer lift station that will service the Little Pond Sewer Service area. As you can see, it's in a pretty desirable location. It's right on Spring Bars Road, and it's also not really in a residential area, so it's kind of an ideal place, as determined by Ray Jack, for this sewer lift station. Now, the the Falmouth Mall is under an administrative consent order from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection because their septic system has difficulty being Title V compliant. By connecting to the sewer, at this point, the administrative consent order will be satisfied and will basically be extinguished, and the Falmouth Mall will then be a customer of the Falmouth sewer system area. They'll be paying sewer use charges and any other charges that are associated with it. Finally, under the administrative consent order, they have a designated flow per day, and under our sewer bylaw, they will be allowed an equivalent of 110% of that into the sewer. So those are sort of the inducements that they have to enter into this agreement. And of course, in return, we would be receiving a parcel of land that we could use for a sewer lift station. So what I'm asking you to do tonight, and I have given through Mr. Suso a couple of motions, is to, one, move to authorize, that the Board of Selectmen authorize the town to enter into this agreement to convey a parcel for a sewer lift station, and to authorize the town manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the town of Falmouth. The agreement will be signed probably tomorrow by the residents, but not by the residents, by the owners of Falmouth Mall. There'll be this change of date with respect to the closing, and it'll be presented to Mr. Suso for his signature. The second motion that I am asking that you make and approve is to exercise your authority under Section 63.5 of the Code of Falmouth, which also authorizes the Board of Selectmen to accept conveyances of land for non-monetary consideration for public works purposes, including sewer purposes. Now, Mr. Jack is here if you have any questions that you think he may answer.
All right, questions from the board? Becky?
Maybe for Mr. Jack?
Good evening.
I think this is ideal. I mean, and I recognize that area, and what you're talking about is the non-monetary part. And talking about that we're getting everything that is necessary in this wastewater and sewer operation?
Yes.
What part of it are you concerned about?
With this particular
Yes.
project, nothing.
Okay. That basically was my question. What is it about this that may bother you?
Nothing. As a matter of fact, it's all positives.
Okay.
I have a question. The lift station that we have over here, behind the quarterdeck, that used to occasionally have odor issues. Will this lift station have odors like that, or is the new science have improved that so that doesn't occur?
No, it will be fitted with odor control, positive odor control devices, yes.
So
no.
anybody who is around the area would not expect that they would be able to experience any odor from it. Is that safe to say?
Correct, unless it's being serviced,
Unless it's being serviced.
yes.
And how
Because
often
when-
does that happen?
If, for whatever reason, we have to do maintenance at the facility and open the below vault doors, then at that time, it's possible to be able to emit an odor, but that would be very limited, very infrequent. I would say maybe 3 times a year.
Okay. Any other questions for Rebecca?
That reminds me, isn't there a lift station behind the T-Ticket school?
other one?
There will be,
There will be,
yes,
How will the
without
size
any
of this,
aroma.
without any aroma, yes.
how will the size of this one compare to the one on for Shiverick's Pond?
I'm sorry?
How will the size of this one compare to the size of the Shiverick's Pond lift house?
Footprint-wise, it'll be slightly smaller, so we're looking at 15 feet square each way, and it will have a small structure on it in order to house the electrical components and things like that, so it'll be a very small structure, but the mall will have wide latitude on determining what the landscaping is going to be, because they do prefer to have it covered, from view from the mall. So we've invited them to participate in that process as well, but it will be intended to blend in as much as possible with the character of the community. Both of them will.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to comment on this? Nancy Hayward?
Nancy Hayward. My question, Madam Chairman, through you to the appropriate person, is what volume of wastewater does this add? I suspect it's fairly insignificant, but I don't really know that. What volume of wastewater is this adding to the effluent from that will go to the wastewater treatment plant? Thank you.
Jerry?
Jerry Thomas, wastewater superintendent. It's proposed at build-out to add 260,000 gallons of additional wastewater entirely from the project area and its build-out. And it's designated to go to a new Site 7 discharge, which has been designed. We're currently applying for permits that will discharge outside the West Falmouth Harbor watershed.
So this lift station will take how much of the affluent of which
The
is
two, well, there's
three lift
the one at
stations.
the in the harbor where we don't have to expand, and then the two new lift stations that we're constructing, they will go through Shiverick's, that then goes to Jones Palmer, that then goes to the treatment plant. And at the treatment plant, it will be sent to a volume not to exceed 260,000 gallons. That's an average daily flow to the new Site 7 that is part of the CWMP. And that was a piece of land we previously acquired.
Right. Okay. Any other questions? Doug has a prepared motion here if we're ready for a motion. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to enter into an agreement entitled Agreement to Convey Parcel for Sewer Lift Station by and between OCW Retail, Falmouth LLC, and the Town of Falmouth to enable the town to acquire at no cost a parcel of land and an easement at the Falmouth Mall on Spring Bars Road for a sewer lift station to be part of the Little Pond Sewer Service Area, and to authorize the town manager to sign the same on behalf of the town.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And the second
And
motion?
I move that the Board of Selectmen, acting under authority of Section 65-3 of the Code of Falmouth, vote to accept the conveyance without monetary consideration of parcel A2 and a permanent sewer easement, both being part of the Falmouth Mall and Spring Bars Road, and described in an agreement entitled Agreement to Convey Parcel for Sewer Lift Station by and between OCW Retail Falmouth LLC and the Town of Falmouth for the construction of a sewer lift station to serve the Little Pond Sewer Service Area, said conveyance to be subject to satisfactory record title and regulatory approvals as set forth in the agreement.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you
Thank you.
very much. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Jerry. Okay, so now we will move on to a special event, and this is a new special event.
Did we do 5?
What? Did I miss something?
5?
Oh, 5, sorry. Authorization to file the State Revolving Fund the most important one on the agenda, to file the state revolving fund application for the water filtration facility. So, who wants to, anybody want to say anything about that?
We have been discussing this for quite a while. and
Yes,
this
we
is now
have. It's
to
now,
send the paperwork into the state.
that's really what it is, so.
Correct,
It's
Madam
time
Chair.
for it.
This has the same deadline, October 15th,
Time for-
and these are our efforts to qualify for the maximum possible, the minimum possible interest rate on the state revolving loan. With the board's concurrence, this paperwork can be filed, in this case, for the water filtration facility.
And this is also referring to the special legislation we did get approved that allows us to pass on the lower interest rate. Was that for this one?
This is water.
This is the water piece as opposed to the wastewater, but the betterment I think you're talking about the betterment issue, which of course did have special legislation, and that is all in place on the wastewater side.
Great, okay.
So, you read the motion? I don't remember if you read it.
No, I have not. I would move that we authorize the town
No,
manager
there's, oh, okay, go ahead.
to file the state revolving fund application for the water filtration facility.
Second.
Discussion. No discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Very good. Major milestones tonight. Okay, now the special events. This is a request for a special event, the Family Harvest Carnival fundraiser at the Montessori Academy of Cape Cod, and to be held at Nye Park on Chester Street in North Falmouth on Saturday, October 18th, 2014. Is there anybody here? Yes, would you like to speak about the event? Great.
Hi, I'm Lillian. I actually know some of you. It's good to see you. Just quickly, I had submitted a request for change of date with, I believe, Carolyn, to move it to the 19th. Our parent advisory board brought it to my attention that a lot of the children are in soccer league, so they wouldn't be able to even attend the event. It's just going to be a family carnival, old-fashioned type games, potato sack races, pumpkin rolling races, hula hoop toss, things of that nature. I did put in a request for permission for a bounce house because there's a potential that one might be donated to us. In preparation for that, I had reached out to our insurance company so that they would fall under our additionally insured, just like the town would. I actually work for a bounce house company. I will be on site that day. I don't anticipate tons of children being there, but my rule of thumb is no more than 6 children at a time, depending on the size, if we get it. The other thing that I would probably just nix it for is if there's forecasted winds. We don't want any problems of that nature where children are flying off in the bounce house.
Would not be good.
I think as far as food is concerned, I had checked with the health department. A gentleman named Scott said hot dog sales would be fine. We're holding a raffle and also submitted for a permit for that as well. And it's all just pending on your approval. Parking will be behind the library, at the library, across the street. I think that if we're lucky, if we have 40 people at a time, at one given time throughout the whole day, we'll consider it a major success. And I think that's all I have as far as information for you. And if you have any questions,
Well,
I'm
did
more than happy to answer.
did you mention the change of date from what's here?
I did. I had called in almost immediately when that information came back to me within the same week. I think I
So
submitted.
it's the 19th and not the 18th?
The following day, yes.
Okay.
And the rain date is on the Sunday also?
Yeah, the following Sunday, the 26th.
Okay.
And I'm not looking for a liquor license.
Any questions, comments?
I guess the thing that I thought, I don't see anything wrong with everything that you have here, but it seems to me that if we received this on the 17th, and then someone had not alerted you to the fact that you need to change from a Saturday to Sunday because the children are playing soccer on Saturday.
Right.
And so, I mean, I don't know whether there's any kind of a feeling about having some kind of an affair over there on a Sunday. I don't know what that issue brings up. Because on a Saturday, we do certain things in our families on Saturday, and we do other things on Sunday.
Right.
And the community does other things on Sunday. So I'm just asking, is there a conflict in moving to a Sunday when you know the community has certain activities on a Sunday?
You know, the school serves a multitude of families from different backgrounds, and the Parent Advisory Board had mentioned it to us within that week that, you know, a lot of the children wouldn't be able to attend. We also discussed changing the hours and pushing it back to be further in the afternoon, but it was kind of agreed upon that the hours that the event will actually be taking place between 10 and 3:30 were appropriate and acceptable to the families who were really putting this on for. I don't think there'll be any sort of disturbance as far as noise or anything like that is concerned. We're not hosting any sort of, or we're not anticipating any sort of mayhem of any nature.
So you think possibly there's going to be between 30 and 50 people attending? And are
We
you
hope
saying
to.
that's throughout the whole day? or you're-
Throughout the whole day, yeah.
Throughout the whole day, 30 to 50 people will be attending, and it will be starting, tell me if this is correct, is 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.?
It's supposed to be set up from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then 10 to 3:30 would be the projected time that the event would be happening, with cleanup happening starting at 3, between 3 and 4, so we'd be cleaned up and out.
There's just a lot of different numbers on every one of these pages. That's why
Okay.
I look at it and I just, I have no problem with you having a fundraiser, and if it's on a Saturday or a Sunday, but I do think that when you come to the selectmen, that as I look at these 4 sheets, and they were filed 3 days ago, that each one of them, it says September 17th.
Right.
Well, okay, three weeks ago, excuse me.
Right.
That, as I look at this, I would just want consistency.
Absolutely.
So if we're going to vote for something, for you to have a fundraiser, it should be consistent on each page. That's all I'm saying. It's a minor issue,
Okay,
but it needs to be said.
thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Montessori Academy of Cape Cod festival, would you call it? Or play day?
Carnival, they're
Carnival,
calling it.
yeah.
With the change dates of Sunday, October 19th, with the rain date of Sunday, October the 26th, and the times from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Or let's say 4 p.m., you said you'd be
Which page
clear.
you
So
looking
10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, I
Yes.
appreciate it.
Hope it works out well for you.
Thank you.
I hope you have good weather.
Thank you.
Okay, now we want to move to a memorandum of understanding for the Mashpee National Wildlife Refuge, and Tom Eagle from Fish and Wildlife Service. Good evening, Mr. Eagle.
Hi, how you doing?
Welcome.
I have audio visual, so Mark, are you gonna?
Yeah, we can do that. You can pull a chair up from the front if you want.
Grab a chair.
Yeah.
Well, while they're getting this situated, again, my name's Tom Eagle. I'm with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. I work for Eastern Massachusetts National Wildlife Refuge Complex. We manage 8 national wildlife refuges in Eastern Massachusetts, and one of them is the Mashpee National Wildlife Refuge that's located in both Mashpee and Falmouth. The refuge was established in 1995 with an approved acquisition boundary of close to 6,000 acres. I need the number up there
It's not on yet.
to get the exact number.
6,144.
There you go. And
We can pause for a minute while we,
Two people on this, somebody will figure this out.
the lights,
we have a light.
the lights.
Yeah, we can do the lights. Yeah.
It's coming up.
Oh, how about one more? This one is still bright.
Could have stayed.
Hold on. I can't read it.
No, this is like a couple slides in.
Do you want more dark?
There we go.
Sorry.
Again, just a little background. Back in 1995, memorandum of understanding was signed. The town of Falmouth was a signatory on that MOU. And back then, the major premise of the partnership was to protect the land within this 6,000 acre refuge boundary. And so all the partners came together for that mission. And since then, they've done quite well protecting, I think you can go to the next one. Close up over 5,000 acres in the boundary. But these are some of the partners that we hope to have signing the new MOU and that signed it in the past. We have both Town of Mashpee, Town of Falmouth, Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe, Arenda Wildlife Trust, Falmouth Rod and Gun Club, both state agencies. And then we have quite a few, several partners that have expressed interest in joining the MOU, although they are not landowners in the refuge, and that is the Friends of Mashpee, who is our support organization. Mary Kay is the president of that organization. The trustees of reservation have land near the boundary of the Mashpee Refuge, and they hope to become part of the refuge at some time. And Trout Unlimited does a lot of stream restoration in the refuge and is a partner and wants to know how they could sign the MOU, but we haven't worked all that stuff out. Yeah. Again, 1995, the MOU focused on land protection. We have 4,200 acres. I'm not sure if that number's correct. With the advent of GIS, these numbers change a lot. So we started actually doing some real management in 2008 with, we contracted out having a wildland hazard fuel assessment done. And in 2009, we started implementing some of the recommendations from that plan, improving access for firefighters. We also started working with New England cottontail, which is a candidate species for the endangered species list. We did surveys on all partner lands. We tracked the rabbits, collared them, tracked them. In 2010, we started cutting fire breaks around major communities in the town of Mashpee. And in 2011 and 12, we conducted our first prescribed burn to reduce hazard fuels in the town of Mashpee. 2012 and 13, we did 40 acres of habitat management for the New England cottontail and 40 acres on Arenda property, town of Mashpee, and we conducted some more prescribed burning. 2013-14, we did 80 acres, or we planned 80 acres on Mass DFW land. I don't think that's been implemented yet, but it's been all marked. And that's for New England cottontail habitat improvements. We did 6 miles of fire break on our property, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service property, and town of Mashpee near Jehu Pond, and 40 additional acres of habitat management and fuels reduction. And we also partner to collect aerial photography for the entire refuge on both towns, all property, and that's usually sponsored by like Wacoit Bay. These are just some of the plans that have come out of the partnership that cover the entire refuge. This is what the ownership map looks like to date. You can just see the mosaic of different partnerships, and that U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service only owns slightly over 300 acres in this 6,000 acre refuge, so it's kind of unique. It is one of the only true partnership refuges in the National Wildlife Refuge system, and works really, really well.
Before you leave, yeah, where is Jehu Pond on that map? I just always wondered where that was. Oh.
Down here.
Oh, in there. Okay.
Am I correct?
Further down?
Well,
It's tough on
in
that
there.
map.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
Just about.
It's small, I guess.
Yeah, it's off the Great River.
Yeah.
You know, small
Okay,
area.
thank you.
Sorry. These are just some pictures of some of the work that we've done. It's the profile species there, the New England cottontail, and that's some of the prescribed burning we did in Mashpee. Some of the wildlife work that has been sponsored through the partnership. Recently, past couple years, we've been doing acoustic monitoring for northern long-eared bat. It's another species that is a candidate species for the endangered species list, and all the bat species are of real concern due to white nose syndrome. Populations are really declining, but we have, through monitoring, we found that we have the northern long-eared bat on, the property of Mashpee, on forested woodlands, and we're pretty sure that a lot of the management we're doing for the cottontail and doing for the fire breaks will benefit this species as well. So we do a lot of stream restoration. This work was kind of started with Mass Wildlife and Trout Unlimited, doing a lot of stream restoration over the years, and we're partnering with them as well as U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Wacoit Bay and DCR, doing a lot of work this year. This is pictures of Abigail's Brook. This is on U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service property near Jehu Pond. We had a failed culvert under the road that was not letting water pass under the road, and instead of putting a culvert back in the road, we actually removed the whole structure and restored natural stream flow to there and actually abandoned the road. So there is no more road traffic through here. Instead, we went for the fish traffic instead, hopefully. And actually tomorrow we'll be doing some more surveying out there for the next phase, which will improve the channel further upstream to hopefully get herring run restored in that area. Because of that, we know a lot of people do, this was on Great Hay Road, we do get a lot of foot traffic. So we didn't want to have everyone have to walk through the water waist deep at high tide. So we built a footbridge. That was the foundation, and since then, this is kind of an example of how the partnership works. This is on U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service property. I built the platform, and in about a month or so, DCR came and finished the bridge for us. So it's just kind of that, working together that really works out well for us. And this, didn't cost anybody anything. The DCR had lumber laying around. These were utility poles pulled up from our refuge in Sudbury, and we brought them out here and used them for a footbridge. This is kind of what the hazard fuels look like in some of the areas, and it's probably no different in a lot of the housing developments around here. That's pitch pine scrub oak, one of the most volatile fuel models in the country. And you can see that if a wildfire ever came up through there, that house would have to go. So that's why we did the plan, and that's why we're doing so much work out there. So here's some of the piece of equipment that we use, and that's what the initial phase, the road clearing, we did on there. Before we did that, you couldn't drive down that road without, branches scratching the side of your truck. And you could imagine if a fire truck went down in there, or firefighters had to get out of their apparatus to fight a wildfire. That's kind of what the roads look like before we go in there and thin them. It's just a map showing some of the areas that we've worked in, and that's kind of what the shaded fuel breaks look like that are about 100 feet wide behind housing developments. And what it does, it makes sure that it breaks up a running crown fire. That's what's going to, be the hardest to contain. And so we break up the canopy so that the fire can't continue on into the houses. Some of the prescribed burning. Another piece of the equipment that we've done, this was done on the Mashpee Wampanoag lands that finally got burned this year. That's what it looks like after we burn. Directly after we burn. It doesn't look like that for very long. Within a couple weeks, it's pretty green. Some more of the proposed projects. All these yellow, that's all the fire breaks that we did this year. That's all funded with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service hazard fuel money, from the Department of Interior. Some of the other projects were funded through NRCS and state wildlife incentive grants. This, yeah, exactly. That's Jehu Pond, right down there. That's the big piece of equipment that we contract out for some of the heavy work. It's amazing that that machine can make it through the woods, and if he wants to, you can hardly tell that he's been there. It does a really great work. This map just highlights the yellow where we've done work to date. And I just want to point out, I think it might be in one of the next slides, but we are going to be moving into doing a project on the Falmouth Rod and Gun Club this year. We did get funding to do road work, you know, and some thinning for the New England cottontail and hazard fuel reduction in that area. We're going to start off with fire breaks up close to housing developments, and then we step off back from there to do our management. We can't do prescribed fire in these habitats the way they are now, because we've kept fire out of these ecosystems for so long. These are fire-dependent ecosystems. They're supposed to be burned on a cycle, but it's been let go so long that it's dangerous. So that's why we have to thin them first. We have to go in there mechanically. We're basically jump-starting the cycle by a good 10 years by doing that. So it's a cost up front, but the benefits, if we keep fire going, it'll be well maintained and better for all the rare species in the state for these habitats. This is just some of the things that we have planned for the refuge. We were working on a 15-year comprehensive conservation plan for the Mashpee National Wildlife Refuge. It's been temporarily put on hold until we can figure out what the listing status is going to be with the New England cottontail, because we really want to get the strategies down for that. And it makes a difference whether it is an endangered species or it is not an endangered species. So that's kind of what's slowing that process up a little bit. But we hope to have that done in a year or so. One of the biggest things is that the partnership benefits from is the grant writing. When you can list a dozen partners on a grant, it really makes a difference, and we've had tremendous success from that. A lot of the partners can apply for a lot of grants that the federal government can apply for because they're sponsored by the federal government. So the Friends Group can, the state can, private landowners, the Rod and Gun Club, and especially the tribe have been really successful in getting grant money for all these purposes. So we come at it at a shotgun approach, and we've been very successful. And we're also looking to protect more land within the boundary, picking up parcels that make sense, that are they don't make sense for development. They could be wetlands, Atlantic white cedar swamps, old cranberry bogs, just to fill in those holes that we still have inside the refuge boundary. And then we have another program going on that's geared towards the New England cottontail and migratory songbirds that are shrubland dependent, and it's a shrubland land protection plan, and that's sponsored by us, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So that'll look at going with partners, easements, and even fee title, or working with partners for them to own land, additional land throughout the Cape Cod that is shrublands for migratory songbirds, and actually within the range of the New England cottontail. So it's from Maine to New Hampshire and Connecticut. So we'll be looking at doing some more. I think that's it. Yep. So any questions?
Questions? Becky?
I'm just, on that last screen, there was just one, more public use. Do you have some ideas? I mean, how are the public using it right now?
So it's pretty expansive, the whole refuge, and we have a diversity of partners, and each partner has their own policies on public use. We have our own policies, Arenda has their own policies, DCR has theirs, some are open to hunting, some are not. So right now, the major use out there is hiking, some biking, a little bit of horseback riding, a little bit of illegal ATV use, which, you know, we need to work on that with more law enforcement and more partnerships with law enforcement officials. But That's the most, and it's connecting the trails that we want to do. You know, it's the trails. Great Hay Road extends the whole refuge. That's used quite heavily, and then everybody has their own trails, and we want to connect them. We want to update that brochure, connect them to trails outside the refuge. So that's the biggest use. You know, it's definitely hiking and outdoor wildlife photography. We want to work with Webner to do a lot more environmental education and interpretation, and educate the public about the refuge and about the species that we try to protect.
I think that might be my issue, is to educate the public. I had no idea this existed. And then when I was informed, and then I started to look at it, and I just think that we should always think green instead of cement. So I think it's a point of educating the public and what you have, and then trails that you can walk on.
Absolutely.
I mean, that you can have your hikes and things of that type, but you really have to let people know.
That's a common problem with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services. Generally, people do not know that there's a refuge in their backyard. And it takes a lot to get them to learn about it, and that's where our Friends group comes in. Mary Kay has, done a great job. My office is 2 hours away, and we have public use staff, and they have 8 refuges to educate the public about, but Mashpee is very important. We've got a lot going on. It's very important for wildlife and for people in this area. So we're going down that road. Our Friends group has a strategic plan they're working on. They're local, and they're the ones that can really help us get the word out. So we hope to improve it.
Just to take off on that, I was at the annual meeting of the Friends, which Mary Kay Fox presented not only the camaraderie of the group, there's some interesting displays, but they have speakers. The speaker that was at the most recent meeting talked a lot about information that even homeowners can use. So, in terms of infestations in trees, and it's a kind of thing a lot of people may want to join. You can donate to the Friends and help out their efforts. And I just have to, Mary Kay Fox also volunteers for the Falmouth High School Science Fair, and was my son Jake's advisor. So, I mean, she really, people that are involved in the Friends really have a wide variety of interests, and I see some other folks here who participate, so it's a great group to check out. And, they have these partners, Friends of the Mashpee National Wildlife Refuge brochures, and you can just go in and look around, and it's a really positive group.
I wanted to comment on your MOU. I thought that with all the partners you have, that you were able to outline the needs of all the various groups and put them all together and get agreement. I mean, that's pretty exceptional. So congratulations on that. That's a very good MOU, and it covers a lot of the work and the intricacies of how things get done. So that was great.
It's easier to do than it is to put in writing.
I would think, yeah.
When you try to explain it, you just can't explain it, and people don't understand. There's certainly a couple issues, or at times where not everyone agrees on it, but, we have so much in common that, you just get past it, and we all work to get so much work done.
And I think we want to recognize our own conservation agent, Mark Haspasek, who's been with the group for, I'm sure, quite a while, and has done a lot of work. And thank you, Mark, for doing that for all of us here, too.
Here. I think if I could add on to that, Jennifer McKay went out of her way during one of the Conservation Commission meetings to thank Mark for his particular effort in helping to put this MOU together. So, Mark, thank you.
Is there any effort to try to get the South Cape Beach part of this also through the DEM, or?
So.
Moving on.
That's a whole other thing.
Well, the boundary of this refuge is an official approved National Wildlife Refuge boundary. There are times when boundary expansions are on the upswing and when they're on the downswing. Right now, they're, I think, on the downswing. they're not looking favorable on boundary expansions, because generally that term is synonymous with money. You know, when you have to expand a refuge, you have to buy land. That's not the case with Mashpee. And if we were to add South Cape Beach, which is just covered with New England cottontails, it would be at no cost. It's a line change. And so we're working on that. Again, it's hard to explain. It's hard to get it, you know, all the way up the chain that it's just taking that line and spreading it out. But something like that might come through this shrubland land protection plan. It may not end up being a traditional boundary expansion, but it might be part of a bigger shrubland component that might just be way bigger than Mashpee and Falmouth. We're hoping, so.
It's amazing how close it came to having that fully developed, though.
Yeah.
Years ago, I mean,
So we're, you know, some of the conversations that we've had recently, you know, with Webner, DCR is, you know, they've, some of the new people are wondering, well, why wasn't it ever included? You know, and with a lot of parcels, why wasn't this parcel included? Why wasn't that parcel included? You know, why aren't the trustees of reservations property in the refuge? You know, they would have been a great partner. So those are the types of things we're looking at in the future.
Great. Right. Any other questions or comments? No? Well, great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And Mary Kay, good to see you. And sure. Could you go to the microphone and ask him?
Thank you for letting me speak. My name's Mary Kay Fox. I'm just sitting over there, Nancy. I just love talking about this this area and what it can do for the town of Falmouth, and being part of this partnership. And as Tom described, all the projects they're doing that have overlapping benefits to everyone, and usually it doesn't come at cost because they're sharing equipment, they're training each other. You know, as far as fire equipment and that kind of thing. So it's a really positive aspect for each of the partners. And being a Falmouth resident and president of the Friends Group, I just keep seeing all the opportunities into the future that this will bring. I also wanted to also stress that we're a tourist economy base, yeah. So this is a hidden gem that I think we need to get out to both Chamber of Commerce's in each town, because it's, as Tom mentioned, it's 5,800 acres of passive recreation. That's immense. We've seen what happened with our bike trail here. It was, you know, from Falmouth down to Woods Hole. Well, that got so popular that it's a traffic jam on it. Now with it going to North Falmouth, it's unbelievable. The tourists that come in. And they're not only using that, as we know, they need to eat, they need to sleep here, they do other things here. So this has got a big base to it. But what Tom didn't emphasize, and I try to bring out in all the talks that I do, is this area, this refuge on the Upper Cape is the largest accessible open space. On Cape wide, it's second to the National Seashore. So that's big. That's a huge chunk of land. We all know what the cost of lands are in Falmouth. So I encourage you to contact the Friends and let us know if we can come out and talk to different groups. I just want to get it out to the public that this is really a great place, a great resource for all of us, and has a lot of potential for the town to grow as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Mary Kay. John? Good. Okay. So,
Did we vote?
Support
for the memorandum?
Let's see. I don't think so. Mary Kay, you're not asking us to vote on anything tonight, are you? No.
Sort of.
Tom, you are? What would you like us?
Yes, you are ready to sign. This is just a draft. I mean, there's little tweakings as it goes through all the partners. You know, we definitely wanted.
So we are a partner,
and,
obviously.
Town council looked at it, and their comments were incorporated into it. So we're just going through that. So I guess a nod would be good.
I would send a move to express a vote of support for the MOU, even though we're not officially signing it tonight.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thanks so much. Thank you, Mark. Thanks for all your work. It's a lot of work. Okay, now we're going to move to committee appointments. And on the Solid Waste Advisory, all of a sudden we have this great influx of interest in the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. You must be out there recruiting, Ruth. We have 3 applicants tonight, and the first is Linda Davis. Good evening, Linda.
Good evening, Chairman Flynn and members of the board and Mr. Suso and Ms. Harper.
So tell us about your interest in solid waste, why you would like to be on the committee.
Well, I've always been interested in waste and in energy and how we use our resources. And I've attended many of the meetings and been on some of the, if you want to say, subcommittees that included public representation. And I'm so familiar with many of the issues and the sort of side issues, whether it's how we dispose of our trash, who carries our trash, what the western part of the state is doing, what kind of recycling programs are available, where we measure up, where we don't measure up. You know, I see a lot of opportunity in Falmouth for better dealing with municipal solid waste and would like to be on that committee. I've attended many of the meetings, as I mentioned. I've even spent some time, I attended a workshop offered by the county on waste, and that was particularly on the pay-as-you-throw program. I've spent some time down with the DPW director in Harwich, looking at their transfer station and how they manage. And
that's pretty impressive, isn't it, the Harwich transfer station?
Yes, it is.
I thought it was one of the most well-organized places that I've been to.
If I can just say something about that.
Yeah.
There were several things that impressed me about that. But the DPW director down there started as an employee for their transfer station. And he eventually was recognized for his ideas and his input. He started as really a kid out of the service, and somebody saw in him the potential, and he worked himself up to be the DPW director, and in the process made many changes to the transfer station that all benefited the town. And I was really impressed. I was really impressed with that. So,
Questions for Linda? Doug?
Do you have any goals for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee?
Well, I think that, first of all, several things. I think we always, trash and waste in general has become a worldwide problem. And it's also changing. And so I think we have to be vigilant as to what the changes are that are going to make it better for our community to remove its waste and its trash in the most efficient and cost-effective way. I think that's really fundamental. I think that the waste management facility, certainly, there's much room for improvement there. And I could be critical of it, but I can also look at it. There's an opportunity waiting to happen to improve and to serve the town better in that area. I think we have to look long-term also at who's carrying our trash and the changes in that. I mean, is it going to be, as, you know, we've signed on to Bourne, but even longer than that, you know, changes are coming that it's you know, the Western world's having trouble finding places to put their trash, you know. So I think we have to think really long-term in some of those areas, but also know that the technology is changing. So, you know, you have to be flexible in whatever you develop for a program.
And do you have any thoughts on question 2?
Can you do question 2? Oh, you mean on the recycling, oh, but on the state?
Yes.
I'm thinking about our warrant. Yes, I do, I mean, I support the bill. I do support recycling. And I think we could do better. And frankly, a lot of what drives behavior is money. And so I think that's a way to get people to another way to get people to look at being more careful with what they throw away.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Linda?
No,
No?
because I was going to ask them the question, so we got the answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda, very much. And Chris Poloni? I thought Chris is here.
Evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chris Poloni.
Yeah.
I'm applying for the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
And your interest in solid waste?
I've served on a couple of, I'm a technologist. I recently retired this past, 2 years ago actually, and I'd like to give back to the town my ability to do research and technology. I've been following the David Quinn's newsletters at the county level and some of the issues there. I also think Harwich has a tremendous recycling program. I think recycling is a big deal. I've been following the state issues with food waste. I think composting is a hot item. We have a person that's doing it as a business here in Falmouth that I think is fantastic. 40% of our waste tends to be food materials, and we'd like to get that out of the waste stream. My interest in serving on the committee is I like technology. I'm very interested in providing my abilities of working with the information technology. I'm an information technology specialist. That's my bag. I did GIS work and so forth. And I like to do problem solving, and I think I could contribute to the committee's work in looking to the future.
Questions, Doug?
Were you pressured by your son to join a committee since he's been?
I don't know if he's joined too many. I like to see him getting involved in the town of Falmouth, though. I'm
great.
Kind of
Yes,
proud of that.
that's great, yeah.
Your thoughts on question 2?
I support it.
Anybody else have
I
questions?
was I support it then. I was waiting for you to give us a little bit of insight into that. I support it because.
I think it's an efficient way of processing our use of materials. There's too many, I think we need to get back to the manufacturers to modify what they're packaging our products in. And I think the logo helps modify that in all of our different kinds of beverages that we consume. So.
Becky?
And as far as the town of Falmouth, how would you rate our solid waste? How we dispose of it and how we handle it, and where we ship it? What are your thoughts?
Well, I always like the train.
You like
It's
the
going to be
train?
too bad to see the train go with our use of Bourne. Bourne's, as Linda mentioned, is a short-term solution in a way. It's for the next decade. It's something we're going to have to look at.
And most of our business is going to Bourne?
It will be, except for the contractors. They'll be looking for something, I think.
Okay.
I think the biggest asset will be reducing our waste. We just can't throw everything in the trash. We really have to reduce what we dispose of. I have a pickup truck, I have a dump sticker, I process stuff for the 300 committee, and one of the times that I picked up stuff, I actually reduced my load by 50% by recycling a lot of the material instead of taking it to the transfer facility. So I think we have to be mindful of how we process our waste. And part of the thing that I like to do is educating the public. From my bag, the last 10 years of my service was working on fact sheets and researching some of the materials that we're looking at. So that would apply to different venues that we deal with.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, Chris, very much.
Thank you.
Jonathan Snyder? Same question. Your interest in solid waste, why you would like to be on the committee, what ideas do you have that think would be helpful to the community?
Okay. My name is Jonathan Snyder. I'm from North Falmouth. I've been a summer resident in Falmouth since 1955. My family spent many weekends here through the school year, school vacations. I'm a Massachusetts Maritime Academy graduate. I graduated #1 in my class. I've had a long, distinguished career going to sea. I retired about 2 years ago. However, let me back up a little bit. Growing up as a young man from age 13 on, I had the opportunity to work at my aunt's. It used to be called the junk shop. Now it's a recycling center. Baling newspaper, cardboard, grading all types of non-ferrous metals. I know what the recycling business is all about. I've grown up in it. I used to work part-time, sometimes full-time, at my aunt's facility with my cousins. I grew up in the business. I was into recycling before it was fashionable. So I've not only talked the talk, I have walked the walk. I look at the landfill and the solid waste business in the town of Falmouth not as solid waste, which seems to me to have a somewhat negative connotation. I would consider it more solid resource. The material that can be taken out of the landfill is worth really a fortune if we were to handle it properly. It could be a magnificent source of revenue for the town. That's one idea that I have. Now, as far as any nuts and bolts and what's really happening, as a regular citizen of the community, all I get is little snippets out of the enterprise here and there. I don't know all of the details of how it's really being run, how it's being handled, who's getting the recycled material, if anybody's even getting it, what's happening with it, if it's just being paid to be disposed of elsewhere. I don't know all the details, but I am a quick learner. I could get up to speed quickly should the board see fit to appoint me, and I have plenty of time. I retired 2 years ago. I have plenty of time to devote to this. I'm very methodical, very thorough, and I never give up. So I have a long-standing interest in recycling, resources, business-wise. I think it's a great opportunity to maybe make some improvements, perhaps. I won't know till I've been aboard, perhaps for quite a few weeks or a month or two. I don't have the answers to everything, but you'd always get 100% effort from me, rain or shine, period.
Great, very good. Questions?
Questions?
Are you going to do
No, you can this time.
Okay, this time I'm going to ask, what's your opinion on question 2?
I'm in favor, and I would like to tell you why.
Good.
It's true that a lot of people may not redeem their bottles or cans or whatever, and some people throw them away in the trash. But those bottles and cans could be picked and baled and recycled. The town could make some money with that in one case. And bottles and cans that are thrown along the side of the road, it's almost like a little part-time job for a lot of people. If they're thrown by the roadside or in parking lots, many people go around and pick those up to redeem them. They're worth something. So I would be in favor of it. In the long run, we would all benefit environmentally. Some people might make a couple of extra dollars a week picking up baskets full of empty cans and bottles. I'm in favor of it.
Do you mind me asking a personal question?
Go right ahead.
Oh, thank you.
It's up to Mr. Snyder.
I want to know about when you were young and your aunt had, what type of a business?
It used to be called the junk shop 50 years ago. Now they're called recycling centers. My Aunt Edith, my mother's sister, was a Pembroke College graduate, and her husband died at an early age, and she took over the family business running a recycling, it was a junkyard. They bought scrap newspaper, metals, plastics, printer's waste, all types of high-grade papers. They baled it. They had high-density baling machines. In the mid-'60s, when I was 15 or 16, I was driving Bobcats, pushing tons of paper and cardboard into high-density baling machines and wiring bales. That's what I was doing as a young man. I've done it full-time, part-time, even after I graduated from Mass Maritime, and I'm home for 6 months at a time. I'd go and work with my cousins. I enjoyed it. I know the benefit to the community, to the environment, and it's also a moneymaker, which the town should look into. Whether I'm on the board or not, somebody should look into the recycling, money-making end of it.
That answer was what I wanted to hear, because I think it's in his blood.
Oh. I
Because
think so.
I do
Yeah.
love it.
Genetic. You were meant to be there. Okay, any other questions? No. Thank you very much, Mr.
Anyone want to
Snyder.
hear some sea stories?
Yeah, another time. Okay, we have
Thank you.
3 applicants, and we have 3 vacancies.
Okay.
1 term expires June 30th, 2016, and 2 terms expire June 30th, 2017. So what is the pleasure of the board?
Not for any particularly good reason besides it's written this way, I would move appointment of Linda Davis to the term ending June 30th, 2016, and Christopher Poloni and Jonathan Snyder to the terms ending June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Well, thank you all very much, and congratulations to these, to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and I think you're going to have a great time with your new members.
I say, please reapply.
Yeah. Okay, the next committee vacancy is on the Design Review Committee, and we just interviewed Mr. Pender. Is he here?
No.
No. We just interviewed him in the last month to be appointed as an alternate member, and now there is a permanent position available, and he has requested appointment to that. So, I mean, it probably isn't necessary to interview him again, because we just talked to him less than a month ago. So, if the board is so inclined, you might want to appoint him to the full member position. And that term ends on June 30th, 2016.
I move we appoint Thomas Pender to the permanent position on the Design Review Committee ending June 30th, 2017.
And technically, do we have to
Well,
unappoint him?
2016. I don't think we have to unappoint him, we just move him up. And then we have a vacancy, so we'll have to advertise the vacancy for the alternate position.
It means we'll have 2 vacancies. Because there currently is 1 vacancy, right? 1 alternate vacancy, and he would become the second alternate vacancy.
Well, that's not very clear, so we don't know. But we'll leave that to Diana, and she can figure out what the vacancies are.
I'm the liaison to that group, and the night that we were voting, or within 24 hours, was the action that they did not have that full-time. And so at that point, we didn't have the information and went ahead with the alternate. There was no way
Right.
for that to say. And he was interested in full-time and a full member.
Yeah, so our action now is just to appoint him
Wait,
to the full
that's it.
member.
That's it.
And then leave the rest up to the staff. So was that a motion?
That was a motion.
And a second?
Second.
But we haven't voted.
Right.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? Unanimous. Great. Now we're going to ask those who have petition articles on the November town meeting warrant, we're going to give each of them, and we have two, I believe, Mr. Finneran and Ms. Joni Favreau, and Don Mallison. Actually, we have three. So the way this works is you have 5 minutes. We're not having a discussion. You simply come up and make your presentation on your article so we understand what it is. And we don't discuss it, we don't make any recommendations. We just simply hear your presentation. And if we have questions, we'll ask questions. Okay, so Mark Finneran, I believe you're first in Article 28. And Article 28 is to see if the town will vote to ask the school committee to rescind their vote to disallow voting at elementary schools. Mr. Finneran.
Hi, Mark Finneran, Precinct 6. I'm certainly not going to use 5 minutes for both of these. I'll give a better,
You have 5 minutes for each.
I don't need it.
Okay.
This one is to ask the school committee to rescind their vote and allow local voting in the neighborhoods in East Falmouth again. There was some sort of an incident at T-Ticket School, I believe it was, and the school committee decided that it would be better to end voting at public schools, which actually, in the end, it didn't work out that way because they ended up voting at the high school. But basically, this vote inconvenienced people on one side of town. I mean, it took away people's right to vote locally in their neighborhood. Some people have to travel almost 6 miles round trip to vote now, and it definitely affected the numbers of the voting. I was there all day, voting day. At 7 o'clock, or from 10 minutes to 7, it took me from 10 minutes to 7 till about 5 past 7 to get up Gifford Street to the high school. The traffic was so extreme. I encountered many people who went to vote in the morning and they decided not to because the traffic was so extreme, and everybody knows what the traffic's like when school's getting in. There were, this is no criticism against the police, but there were 2 police officers stationed to the voting area, but none of them were ever at the street. There were people going in the out way and out the in way. As I explained, it was very busy at 7 o'clock, almost impossible to get there. The same thing repeated at noon, and the same thing repeated between 2 and 3. You could see cars driving around and around and around. And I mean, it takes you a while to notice when you're standing there. But I saw vehicles go around 3 times in 5 minutes. And it was quite obvious by looking over in the parking lot, they couldn't find a place to park. The back row of the parking lot was filled with all the voting workers' cars. They were not supposed to park there. And basically, if one voter is disenfranchised, then all voters are disenfranchised. Again, this only happened to the voters in East Falmouth. The voting numbers were down. They were down all over, but they were down markedly in East Falmouth. Let me see what else we got here. I went in and I asked about this, and I was here when the vote was made, but it was already done by the school committee. There was nothing the selectmen could do because they run our schools. I asked people, the clerk's office, selectmen, whatever, why didn't they ask around in East Falmouth, like St. Anthony's Church? Now, I was told that St. Anthony's Church was out of the question because there wasn't a handicap ramp. Anybody can drive by and they can see there's a large concrete handicap ramp outside of East Falmouth, and they were never asked. And the same as the Church of the Nazarene across from the PAL, which I don't understand why the PAL wasn't still used, because the PAL's still there, unsold. Reverend Buddy across the street said no one ever asked him, and he would have been more than willing to have the voting there. And then the bottom line was that it was the school committee feared for the safety of students. Well, they're voting at a school now. There's more of a crowd of people. The only difference is, instead of 13-year-olds, you're talking about 15-year-olds. I mean, it's preposterous to think that a child becomes bulletproof, if you choose, between the ages of 13 and 15. It simply made no sense. Basically, if it is a safety concern, they should have an in-service day on the day of voting, day of election. That will make children remember voting day for the rest of their lives, and it will turn them into voters, as opposed to currently now they think that voters are bad and they're not around. I just didn't like the whole thing, and I really haven't encountered a lot of people that did. And as I say, I'll make a larger and more concise presentation on town meeting floor, but if you're going to inconvenience people in town, you shouldn't just inconvenience people from one side of town. It's absolutely not fair. There you go. That wasn't 5 minutes.
No. Article 29?
Article 29 basically asks that town council inform us of all suits against the town and all the outcomes. This has been brought up in town meeting several times over the last 4 years. I have some minutes here, which again, I'll be more concise at town meeting. It was first brought up in 2010 by Carol Murphy regarding the high school, naturally. Questions were never answered completely. It was brought up again in spring 2012 by Linda Davis, and again, her questions weren't completely answered. There were promises made that would be provided with this information. Basically, in the town reports, they only give the names. They don't give any of the outcomes. They don't give any of the monetary judgments. And there was an interesting thing that was expressed by town council to Ms. Davis when she asked. And Mr. Duffy said, as far as any judgment goes, if we have a judgment, a monetary judgment against the town of Falmouth that is not covered by a budgetary item, we'd report it to the Board of Selectmen under Massachusetts general law. They have the right to put the revenue on the tax rate for the following year. That, as it's written, could happen without us ever knowing what the settlement was, why our taxes were raised. In the interest of openness, it's our money, it's our town, it's our information. I mean, it should just be there. Last town meeting, I asked myself, and I was told by town council that it could be provided, but yet it hasn't. And that's, as I say, that was the 4th year in a row that it was asked for. And then last fall, we had through Margot Fennell, we had a petitioner's article to review the high school building project for $24,999. That was voted down by town meeting. And we were told by a town meeting member, believe me, you don't want to know. Well, I didn't encounter anyone who didn't want to know exactly what happened at the high school. This information is already gathered. It's required for the yearly audit. It's used by the auditors to determine potential future liability. It makes no sense to me why we don't make this information public. This is a great tool. We could use this to reduce some of these lawsuits and liabilities. I mean, just offhand, I can think of an employee that's retired now, but that sued the town 4 times. Had this person's name been published every year, do you think that they might have been a little bit more reluctant to sue the town? I think it's absolutely possible. As recently as September 8th, in executive session, there was an item, settlement agreement. It never told us what the settlement agreement was, which basically is a violation of the open meeting law. So in the following days, I mean, there was speculation all over what it was for. I was told it was from an incident at the building department. I don't know, but we should be able to know, and we should be able to know what it cost us. Also, we should be able to compare our insurance rates for the last 5 or 6 years and to see if they have any relevance or if there's any correlation between these lawsuits. Again, it's the people's money. I just can't see any reason why we don't have this, and it should just happen. I'll give you another, for instance. There was an amount of metal that turned up missing at the dump. I did a town meeting article on it. It was pushed into court, and it went nowhere. I mean, I gave all my information as an amicus. It didn't go anywhere in court, so I went to the Inspector General. They again forced it back into court, and it went into mediation, and for roughly $1 million worth of material, we received zero.
I think your 5 minutes is...
the town deserves, no, it's not up. I think the town deserves an explanation, and that's simply what this asks for, and if you don't want to give it to us, at least you can give us a good reason why on town meeting floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Joni Favreau, Article 30, which is the town taking White Pine Lane as a public way and finish repairs to the road. Yes.
The road was halfway done by the town. I can do it at the town meeting in November, but essentially they went up 3 homes on either side. The town owned some land over here, and over here is owned by the Housing Authority, and this is where it's all paved. Up here, I live up here, just before the houses on Lakeshore Drive. This road is heavily traveled. It is on a couple of hills. So I'm at this corner where it curves and it's all downhill. I've lost almost 20 inches of road in front of my driveway. I have about a quarter of my driveway eaten away because it's all washing away. Interestingly, I have CDs that show that this street was once paved, and someone had the bright idea of throwing dirt on it to repair it because it was washing away underneath the pavement, which causes crater on asphalt. So it needs to be finished. It just keeps washing away. It's almost impassable right now. I guess at the beginning of the season, someone came along and raked it. But up through here, it's all cratered. There must be like about 8 of them in between the hot top. All here is all deep gullies. It's going into the waste basin where it is paved because it's running on the side. This house right here can't even get into their garage because of how much mud is outside, and they have water damage inside their house. As far as affording, for us to there's 2 houses that, one house in particular is owned by the bank. It went foreclosed. This is owned by the Housing Authority. This is owned only by an EMT, a former teacher of the town. And across the street from me is a young lady with a young child with Down syndrome. They're retired people. Another issue is that I'd like you to take over the street, because on either side, it's a straight through to get to Lakeshore Drive from Sandwich Road. And when anybody wants to get through here, they use this street, bad and all. It can't be bad for anybody's cars. They have to go across a couple of streets to get to here. So this is a straight through. A lot of the streets that that Heather Hopper, gave me a list of all the ones that are being done. I've looked at several of them, like Elizabeth Jean Drive. That's only used by the residents. I know that that's been granted to be paved. This is far worse. It just gets worse by the month, by the day, depending on if it rains and stuff and how much traffic is going through. There's a lot of construction, how people doing houses over and stuff, and I get great big trucks going through, like from Home Depot, those great big long ones, and they can't go on the other streets because of how deep the Round Pound Road that connects Pinecrest. They could never make the turn and stuff, so they keep going up and down the street. Another reason, there's a guardrail here. There's no sidewalk for our mailboxes. We have everybody's mailbox right there. I took mine out because I almost got hit by a truck. Honestly, there is this much room, and then there's a metal guardrail and a great big hill down there. So you couldn't even jump out of the way if someone came on. And there's been several people that have been hit, one by a bike, and someone hit a pole right around on this street right here on Sandwich Road on both sides of the street. It's a hazard for us, and we can't make those mailboxes go on our own properties until it's a town street. We can't block it off from traffic because it is a safety hazard, and I agree with Ms. Hopper. I said, well, why don't we just block it off, and it'll save some of the street and stuff, and we'll take care of it ourselves. But we can't do that because,
Your
as you
time is
said-
up, Ms. Favreau.
Yes.
Yeah. No, your 5 minutes is up.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's
It was
okay.
fast.
Well, thank you for your presentation.
Okay, so I'll be able to go to the,
Oh, yes, you can make it your presentation at town meeting.
okay. Thank you so much
And if you
for
need
having me.
any PowerPoints or something like that, you should probably see who.
You can contact me.
Hmm?
You can contact her.
Contact Heather.
And I want to thank Heather for her graciousness for having me come in repeatedly and trying to find out what I need to do. She was very nice to me. I
Good.
really want to appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And then the next and the last one is Mr. Mallinson, to see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws by inserting a very long article related to plastic bags.
Thank you. I
Good evening.
appreciate the opportunity to talk to the selectmen. Just by way of introduction, my wife and I, we moved to Falmouth 3 years ago from Rhode Island because we got tired of commuting, because we have 3 adult children and 7 grandchildren living here in town, and it felt it was better to move here. In fact, I had the opportunity to build an energy-efficient house, and this select board gave me an award last year for having a net energy-efficient house. So if I had to define my activities these days, I would say I'm an environmental activist. Retired, but I had the opportunity to initiate a petition to help improve the environment of Falmouth. And so I just took it upon myself to create this petition, which I believe you all have a copy of. And I went around this summer, spring and summer, and gathered 165 signatures. I will tell you, I was very impressed with the ease with which I got those signatures, because people thought it was a very good idea and signed. So I just thought that 165, I thought that was fine. So as you may not be aware, California has just initiated a plastic bag ban for the entire state. Hawaii has done it community by community, but every community in the state has done it. It's happening, it's going to happen here. I would like Falmouth to be the leader on the Cape in doing something like this for the environment. What I'm asking to ban is this. Basically, it's sometimes referred to as a checkout bag, but it's basically a single-use bag with handles. What will not be banned is what your newspaper might come in. If your newspaper comes, you get a newspaper, it typically comes with something like this. That's fine, great, use it. If you go to the dry cleaning store and your suit or your shirts come in a big plastic bag, that will not be affected by this proposal. So there will be a charge. I'm suggesting that the ban should be effective for paper and plastic bags, and that if the person wishes not to bring their own, then they should, let's see if I get an idea for, this is a reusable bag. You carry it around in your pocket, you take it, then it opens up into you either bring your own bag or you buy one there for 10 cents. You were asking about the bottle bill. If it were up to me, I'd vote yes, but only if they raised it from a nickel to 10 cents. A nickel doesn't do anything for anybody, but I do for 10 cents. So I think Falmouth can lead on the Cape. Oh, by the way, Nantucket isn't part of Falmouth. It isn't part of the Cape. But they were the first community in the world to ban plastic bags in 1990, 24 years ago. Now, I contacted the Chamber of Commerce over there this summer. I said, what's the effect on banning plastic bags had on your tourism? Because tourism is certainly very big here in Falmouth. Nada. Nothing. No effect at all. I contacted the Department of Public Works. They're also...
You have about a half a minute left, so...
Mr. Jack, so they said, no, that hasn't had any effect on them either. It hasn't affected their trash pickup or anything like that. So basically, at this point, I think it's a terrific idea. By the way, did I mention it does not raise any taxes, does not raise any fees? All right, this is a win-win for everybody in the town and the tourists.
Quick question, do you know what I just got back from California, and they all asked, that every cashier says 10 cents for a plastic bag, for a bag if you want one. What do they do with that money?
I don't know what California does with that money. My proposal is the local merchant keeps it.
Okay.
So they'll turn an expense into a profit item, but hopefully a small profit, because I want people to bring bags.
Thank you.
So,
No, thank you, Mr. Mallinson.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to discuss and vote a special town meeting for November 18th, 2014.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few explanatory comments in advance, if I may. The board is fully familiar with the $49.82 million town wastewater program passed by town meeting this last April, and of course fully supported by voters at the municipal election in May. An important part of this wastewater initiative includes sewering of the Little Pond sewer service area. Given the challenging ownership patterns and the topography of this area, the sewer connections include both gravity connections and the grinder pump connections to the mainline sewer. This is a combination that is fairly common, and of course has been explained in more than one meeting involving property owners. Included in the $49.82 million is a set-aside of funding for the purpose of reimbursing those approximately 650 property owners in the Little Pond sewer service area for the purchase and also possibly the installation of grinder pumps to access the soon-to-be-constructed sewer in that area. This was included in that total $49.82 million in an effort to equalize the financial outlay of both those served by a gravity connection and those served by a grinder pump connection. Within the past several days, we've learned from bond counsel that these same $49.82 million in approved levy funds cannot be expended directly on private property. Consulting with town council, we've determined it would be most appropriate, subject to the selectmen's concurrence, of course, to suggest the adoption of special legislation by town meeting to allow the intended and anticipated use of these same already approved funds to be utilized on grinder pump acquisition installation to most appropriately and fairly equalize costs between gravity and grinder pump locations, as I have noted. Please recall that this is not the first time we have sought and received special legislation approval for this same wastewater project. This was the case at the November 2013 town meeting. Both Articles 42 and 43 at that town meeting were involved with special legislation. One dealt with eco-toilets, and the second with expanding the payback of betterments from 20 years to 30 years, and both were, of course, approved. Should we fail to move in this direction, it would appear to compromise our ability to equalize the overall costs to the Little Pond area, sewer area landowners, which has been among our stated intentions from the beginning. And that's a little background information. Town Council Frank Duffy is here with us. Frank, I saw you in the front row. I see you're a little bit, a couple rows back now. Would be available also to answer questions that the board may have regarding both setting this special town meeting, if that would be your determination, and also the follow-up vote to close the warrant for the special town meeting as well and set that date and time. Thank you, Madam Chair. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Well, I think timing is important here.
Yes.
We really don't have the luxury of waiting until next April to do this. And we are now within a time frame, a legal time frame, in which we can actually set a special town meeting within the November town meeting. So, and as Julian said, it's something that we have done before, but it was just an unanticipated glitch. And I mean, there are other consequences if you don't do it. So, and we've made, and the Water Quality Management Committee has made, I don't call them promises, but in the wastewater plan, it's always been stated in there that we would do that reimbursement for the grinder pumps. And this legislation would allow this to happen, so that's what it's about. So first, we start with the discussion of voting a special town meeting for this special town meeting would
November
be
18th.
November 18th.
I think it's essential that we do everything we can to make this happen, because that's certainly what the expectation all along was, that these would be funded through this process.
You're here.
So,
It's also really, I mean, this is cutting-edge stuff that Falmouth is doing, and so it's not a surprise at all that you have to adjust your planning. So I think it's, it's part of the whole process.
and as part of the ability to be kind of resilient and be able to move the things forward that you can do. I mean, the legislature allows for the opportunity to do things like this when you get yourself into a short-term situation, which is what we have here, and a fix. It's a short-term fix for a long-term commitment. And so, Becky?
Well, I think the one thing is the fact that there is an option. And I think the other is that each resident needs to have the equal offering. And it isn't anything that they prepared to have it as either grinder or if it's flow. They didn't decide that. But not one group should be held responsible and have a higher rate because that's what they have at their home. So I think we need equality. I think we have spoken that it's equal for all residents, and I think we're very fortunate that we have an opportunity that we can apply back to the state again to bring in the revenues and straighten it out. So it's, and I think the timing is perfect. It's not so much for the state notifying us, but for the fact that we can have our special meeting.
Okay, so there's two things here. One is to actually announce the town meeting. And the second thing in vote is, well, maybe they should they be separate votes?
Yes.
On closing the warrant. So I guess the first vote would come on announcing a special town meeting for Tuesday, November 18th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. And then the second vote will come on closing the warrant. And that happens Wednesday, October 8th, which is just 2 days from now, and there are certain legal requirements why that is necessary. Did you want to comment,
That's
or
correct,
ask
Madam
Frank to
Chairman,
comment
because
on that?
there's advertising that is required a number of days in advance, and I would defer to town council to clarify that a little bit further, but from that does flow the importance of closing the warrant timely so that we can properly advertise in advance of the town meeting date.
Good evening, Madam Chairman. Frank Duffy, Town Council. The charter requires that the warrant be kept open for 48 hours for a special town meeting. Considering it's kind of late at night now, I think you probably have to close it sometime on Thursday, and in terms of the articles for the warrant, Jennifer, the Finance Director, and I will confer with Bond Council, and will generate the articles for the town meeting. We will also prepare draft special legislation to be considered when we get to the town meeting to accomplish the purposes that you've set forth here. There's probably the likelihood that you may have to have a special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to set the warrant for this town meeting to meet the publishing deadlines. But that special town meeting would be a very short, maybe 5 or 10 minutes really, but it will be sometime, I think, next week is what I said in my memo.
I believe so, Mr. Town Council.
But this is the only night you have to operate.
Right.
Tonight's your only opportunity.
Madam Chair, perhaps consistent with Town Council, Mr. Duffy's comment on closing the warrant, perhaps you'd want to consider 12 noon on Thursday, October 9th.
Okay, instead of Wednesday.
Correct, instead of end of day Wednesday.
You wouldn't get the full 48 hours
Yeah.
because of the late night.
Okay.
That will give you 48 hours.
So, okay. So the closing of the warrant would take place on Thursday, October 9th at noon. So is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Should we
So-
announce the rest of the events on the
Right.
timetable for
Yep,
that?
you might read the whole thing.
I guess we still have to discuss the timetable for our meeting on next week to actually vote the article. Right now, we're suggesting Tuesday, October 14th is when we would vote the articles. So the articles can be published on Friday, October 17th. We'd vote the recommendations on October 20th. We'd publish the warrant with recommendations on October 24th for the special town meeting on November 18th.
So that's the correct time?
That's our anticipated schedule at this point. If there would be an adjustment in that, we would get back to the board and slightly alter your meeting schedule accordingly, but that's what's anticipated at this moment.
Is that a motion to approve?
Yes.
The reading of the calendar was the motion to approve the sequence.
Yeah, second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh,
The timing of we have a training session that's supposed to end at 4:30 that council is going to be giving us on conflict of interest in public hearing.
Is that the afternoon one or the?
That's the afternoon one that starts at
3 to
3 and ends at
4:30.
4:30. So I was wondering whether we could pick a time that would coincide with the ending of that training.
and start a meeting at 4:30 to do what?
That would be to vote articles and execute.
Oh, to vote the articles,
Yeah.
just the articles for the special?
Yes.
Yeah, so it only take just like
Matter of
30,
months.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm just throwing that as a
As an
time that
option?
would work well for everybody, that
Well,
at least
that's
they're planning.
if everyone's going on the 14th,
Right.
because you have 2 dates, and I
Exactly.
wasn't going on the 14th.
Okay, well,
I'm
So
not available at.
are there at
4
least
o'clock.
3 selectmen going on that day, the 14th?
Yes.
I can
You're
certainly be
going?
there. I can certainly be there.
What day is that, a
I'll come
Tuesday?
right afterward.
Right, 4:30, I can certainly be here.
Yeah, I can probably be there too.
So
I
we
think
have
we'll have
4.
enough to be able to vote.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so let's,
Well, it's not okay, but I have to.
so let's then vote the recommendation on October 20th at 4:30 PM.
No, October
No?
20th, we have a regular meeting, right?
It's the 14th.
The week,
We're
the
doing
14th.
it.
October
Tuesday the
14th.
Right.
Okay, October 14th at 4:30 PM. Okay.
Madam Chair, just a
Yes.
question. Would you
Mhm.
like a little gap in time between the wrap-up of town council's scheduled to go from 3 to 4:30? I'm just wondering if you might prefer to start the selectmen's meeting at 4:45 or give a few moments for.
Is it being held here, Frank?
Yeah, in this room.
In this room, yeah.
It's a 5-minute meeting after, so.
But 4:45.
Well, we need to clear
just-
the room, I guess.
Thought if the first meeting went over a little late,
Yep.
you might,
Okay, 4:45.
So make it
Take a
4:45?
break.
That's
may well
okay.
not. Don't know how well attended that'll be, Mr. Duffy, but
We typically,
Varies.
we found that an hour and a half is adequate for the training session. They generally end right about 4:30.
so it'll be up to the
Okay.
board if you want to start promptly or wait a few minutes to clear the room.
All right, so then the motion would be to vote the articles and execute the warrant on Tuesday, October 14th at 4:45 PM. Okay?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
One.
You're opposed? Okay. Unanimous. I mean, not unanimous. 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Anything else? I don't think so.
No.
Thank you very much.
That's it, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yes. All right, next we're going to discuss the budget policy. And I'm sure everybody had a chance to read it. I don't see any great variances from previous budget policy, but Jennifer, I'm sure you might like the opportunity to present it.
Thank you.
Becky, could you turn those lights back on over there?
I will.
She's in the dark. Thank you, that's better.
Thank you
Keep
very
me
much.
awake for the next hour.
And good evening. At least I'm not in the dark about the budget policy.
Right.
It really is just mirroring what we've done in the last couple of years, but I did make a slight change. I discussed it a little bit with my budget presentation over at the library a couple months ago. And really what I wanted to do in the budget policy on page 2 is shift it from it was always a percentage of budget, but we kind of correlated a 2.5% budget increase because of a 2.5% levy increase, and they really don't equal. The levy's $80 million, the budget's minus the excluded debt's about 105. Plus, we have a new growth component. So I actually did the calculation on the revenue growth and how that would apply to the budget, and so the growth in the budget would be 2.29%.
Now, what page are you on?
Page 2.
Yeah, just wanted, so
So
we're all on the same page.
that's really the major change in for the new members. In the last couple of years, well, last year, the budget policy really was a 2.25% growth for the budget, with 2.25 going to capital. So I just reworked the calculation, actually gave you the calculation. So we would do the 2.25% for capital and 2.29% and apply that to the budget. And it also mirrors the other part of the budget policy, does talk about reserves and how we want to keep our estimated, there's 4 components of revenue, and one of them is the levy, and that's the only component that we would project to increase because of the 2.5%. But state aid right now, we would not project that increasing, even though it appears that, revenue is coming in, it's coming in healthy. And also the estimated receipts per the last year's budget policy, last couple of years, we wouldn't actually grow our estimated receipts unless we were able to identify new revenue to support maybe a new program. So we would level fund that as well. The other part of the revenue is your other funding sources and other funds that supports the debt. And that fluctuates as the debt service fluctuates. So that really is the essence of this budget policy. If y'all had a chance to read through it, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I guess my question is we usually do not recommend any potential increases to state aid because we never know. What happens if it comes in excess of what we anticipate?
Well, let's take last year for an example. We knew that usually they'll unveil the governor's budget at the MMA every year, and state receipts were particularly strong, and then the MMA was really lobbying the legislature to have a local aid resolution so we wouldn't decrease, so we would be able to know what that would be. So in January, when the governor did come out with his budget, there was an increase in Chapter 70, and after speaking with local representatives and other colleagues, we felt comfortable using that increase in state aid, and particularly it went to the schools, because it was an increase in Chapter 70. And so that's really, how we kind of look at it. It's really not black and white. If there's a real push and pull about an increase in state aid, we always want to be on the conservative side and not project a revenue growth, because if it doesn't come in, then you could have a potential revenue deficit.
Right.
But we were fairly comfortable with that. And then not too soon after that, they did accept a local aid resolution, the legislature. So we in fact knew that the Chapter 70 line item was good.
But there still isn't any certainty from the state
No.
regarding Chapter 70 or anything else.
It's
I
way-
mean, they just can't do that for some reason.
Yeah, it's just way too early. They're
Mhm.
still looking at the receipts coming in, because they'll base their budget next year on the receipts, what they'll look at is the state receipts coming in this year, and taxes haven't been filed, They do look at the receipts monthly, but it's still way too early in the fiscal year, I think, for them to, be comfortable with any of that. You really don't see any movement on the state budget really until January and after that. And sometimes with years, if, as you may recall, we won't know in tight budget years until June.
Right.
So,
I'm sorry. Sam and then Becky.
One of the things I'd like to mention is that the MMA meeting that I attended in September, they indicated that FY14 revenues were actually higher than projected at the state level. I mean, it sounds like that there's going to be at least some surplus from FY14 tax collection that could at least make us feel a little bit more comfortable about things this next year. But like you said, we don't have anything in writing at this point.
and, is that a one-time surplus? I think the state looks at that as well. If it's a one-time surplus, they might, allocate that into their rainy day fund as well. We just don't know how they would use that, and it does take a little bit of time to kind of get those answers.
And we're going to have new legislators
That's correct. New
toward
governor.
that time of the year, so we really don't know what they might do.
I'm not finding it quickly and getting ready to ask you, what is happening with the golf course? It seemed as if I read, did I go through here and I didn't circle it as I was reading it, but didn't we put money in?
Okay, that's capital. We're still on the budget policy.
That's why I'm not finding it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, and the next one is the ESCO project for the 100.
No, Becky,
I still
you're-
can't do that one.
No, that's next.
Wait, it's next.
That's next. We're finishing
Okay.
up just the
Well,
policy.
I have two questions.
Okay.
next. Okay.
So any other comments on the budget policy? And we need to vote this. So,
Okay.
I mean, it's not deviated much from last year. It's been a successful policy.
And it's more information and more accurately
Yeah.
presented, more understandable.
So is there a motion to adopt you have a question?
Just that, to clarify then what happens to this, is this then goes to the department heads, as they're developing their budget, that they understand what our policy is?
Or
Or is this already gone?
It's a great question. Our budget memo that we sent last year actually was a little bit before when it was voted here. But in our memo, because we want to increase the budget 2.29%, the town manager will review it to look at the strategic plan of the Board of Selectmen and any directives. And so it's really his recommendation to the board. So there might be some departments that might be 0.2%, where another department might be higher than the 2.9%. We just want to make sure that the overall budget is the 2.29%. But those decisions are really made or the recommendations will be made at the management level. So when we recommend the budget to you, when you transfer it over to the Finance Committee, you will see fluctuations. We really don't want to write in the policy memo, and correct me if I'm wrong, you can increase your budget 2.29%,
Right.
because then everybody will. It really is, a management tool, and we want to look at the strategic priorities and the services, that we supply to the town.
The reason for my question is to make sure the same kind of message gets to the school committee, so we don't end up in the same situation we did last year, where the information was to the department heads, this is where we are. The school committee came back and said, we're actually needing a lot more than 2.29%, and just trying to make sure we have that line of communication open with them.
Yeah, and let me comment on that a little bit. They do have a new finance director over at the school department. He started 3 weeks ago. I've met with him twice. We are trying to get on biweekly meetings. And so I have brought him up to speed, really what the procedures are with the town and how we go about this. And so I will be in contact with him with the budget policy. And he'll know, and he knows that, we were coming before you tonight to discuss the budget policy. So we have been in close communications with the school
Great,
department.
thank you so much.
Madam Chair, if I could just interject along the same lines. As the board's aware, under the charter, as town manager, I bring you a proposed operating budget no later than January 1 for the coming fiscal year. And of course, what you adopt tonight is the budget blueprint. The budget policy will set the broad guideline for what I bring back to you for your consideration in those first couple weeks in January, ultimately going to the Finance Committee. So as our Finance Director Jennifer Petit's pointed out, there will be some variation, there always is, between departments because this is not a one-size-fits-all. However, the broad policy, the blueprint that you give me is going to ordain the upper limits within which I operate and bring a proposal back to you, including with the school department and all other town departments, so that that is the critical nature of this. And we will share it with all departments, including the school department, so that everyone understands the marching orders that I've been given as far as what I bring back to you. So this is a very critically important step and a responsible one that lays out what our alternatives are and our options and really sets the standard for us living within our means.
Okay, so a motion to adopt the budget policy for fiscal year 2016.
So moved, as defined in this document.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Julian, Jennifer. That's great. So now we want to move to the big package, the capital improvement plan.
Okay.
So did you want to give us an overview or a presentation, or are we just?
Yes.
How do you want to
Jennifer will
approach
give
it?
us an
Jennifer
overview.
will? Good. Okay, Jennifer.
Thank you. So in front of you is our proposed capital improvement program. You'll notice that it's a 10-year program. In your spreadsheet, before you get to the detailed level, I'll just walk you through that a little bit, trying to highlight where we really want to focus on for the next town meeting. It's always good to look at the 10 years out, but really what we want to look at is what were the requests to management and what are the recommendations that management will make to fund our capital plan. And so if you look at the highlighted, I don't know if yours is highlighted in yellow.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
That's really our proposed capital budget, and if you'll notice, I do set it up in the same way as I do the operating budget, so I do break it down by function, so you'll have general government, public safety, community development, public works, community services in the schools. And we do have a proposed capital budget of about $4.1 million, 4.179. 4.135 will come from free cash, and we are using some money left over from the Sitters Water Main capital article, and we'll reappropriate that. So that's really the funding source for the capital program. As I discussed in the meeting a couple months ago at the library, we look at free cash as one-time revenue, and so we want to use it to fund our one-time expenses, which would be our capital. I can walk you through it if you'd like. As you can see, we had over $11 million in requests, and we're funding 4. So we really needed to pay attention, look at our priorities, and feel that we were still making some headway in our capital program. Also, if you remember, over a year ago, we had the Capital Advisory Committee that met through the winter and made some recommendations to the Board of Selectmen after, through those meetings. And what really came about of those meetings was a great report that kind of laid out where we might be able to have some additional revenue sources, but we felt that if we could at least fund our capital to the tune of about $3 million a year, we would at least make some headway, and we have a little bit more in here this year, but again, we had over 11 million in requests. So we are starting to make some headway on our capital, where we hadn't in a few years. So this is a good, next good healthy year. So I'll walk you through it a little bit if you'd like. You know, in general government, we do have some money for some computers and licenses in order to upgrade some of our PCs for our Windows XP is becoming obsolete. So we, instead of adding memory, we actually have to add more PCs. So you'll see a healthy funding for that, particularly for the police department, because they need to be able to speak with the, you know, the other agencies, other law enforcement agencies. This is just an overview. I do want to point out that the Board of Selectmen's meeting room upgrades, that $42,000, that came into the general fund, which becomes part of free cash because we didn't appropriate it separately. So we are taking, that's what we received from that, I think it was an easement. that
With the
40
NSTAR easement?
Yes.
Was that the work that NSTAR was doing?
Yes, so we did
Yeah.
receive that money, so I earmarked it for the Board of Selectmen's meeting rooms, but it does become part of your free cash. We're asking for some money for a comprehensive annual financial report, the CAFR. That's part of the Board of Selectmen's strategic plan, and what that is a 10-year statistical, in-depth analysis of the financial health and wealth of the town of Falmouth. And a lot of work does go into that. We really feel like we need to bring in some outside
Have we done that
consultants.
before?
No.
I didn't think so.
No.
So
And-
this is the first CAFR that we've done.
Right, and we won't always have to, this will be the only time we have to appropriate money. Once we have the framework completed, we'll be able to keep up with it. But it's a healthy report. It's probably over 150, 200 pages. So we want to bring somebody on to help us analyze our financial statements and sort them in the way we need to. And then there's some money in here for a consolidated dispatch and some facilities improvements.
Jennifer, maybe if you would also point out the ones that, the large ticket items that we're not.
Sure.
And for instance, one of the things that Rebecca may be asking about is the irrigation system at the country club, as to whether that, we're hoping that's going to go to
Community Preservation Committee?
CPC.
Yeah.
And then later on the radio system in the police department, which I think is related to the
Sure.
central dispatch. I mean, those would be two examples.
Yeah, I can answer the questions generally, and then, we want to get into more detail.
Becky, you
Do
have questions?
No, that's exactly where it was. I
Okay.
was interested that we had 242, and then that's the request, but nothing is being proposed for that.
Yeah, I can answer that for you if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay, it's a great question. We did approach the Community Preservation Committee for some partial funding, and they are going to recommend it at town meeting, and so we felt with so many large requests, and where we'll be putting in the irrigation system in Falmouth Country Club, we won't be doing it all at the same time. We're not going to put it in, all together. We can put it in phases. And so that would be the first part of the funding, make sure that, they fund that, and then, then we will come in for additional funding after the Community Preservation Committee. So there will be, as town meeting votes the recommendation, there will be some money appropriated for the irrigation system.
Can I mention that came up in the CPC meeting 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago anyway, and they were curious about where the balance of the money was going to come from, and were concerned about the fact that it wouldn't be a viable project unless the balance were identified. There may be a disconnect here, and they may have some reservations about their allocation if there's not a commitment. So it's just something to follow up.
Yeah, I could comment on that, if I may, Madam Chair. To be consistent, the approach we've taken is not to earmark funds in capital until we give town meeting the opportunity to affirm the CPC recommendations. In other words, when those projects become live, whether it applies to the golf course irrigation system or a couple of the other projects that are in here that are also earmarked for CPC dollars, we don't want to be in front of the decision-making for those projects. We are involved in making those applications. We want to give an opportunity for that basic fundamental vote to be taken, and then consider moving forward in a responsible way with prioritized capital in the town meetings to follow. So that's the approach we're taking on all of those CPC funded projects.
Good. Thank you. I'll move down and I'll touch on what some of the requests were that seem relatively high that we did not fund. And as you can see, under the police department radio system, we did appropriate $250,000 in FY14, and he did put in a request for $500,000. But it was really, you know, I've had discussions with the police chief to let us know that the radio system is, you know, older. But that is, the radios, we've already appropriated money in 14, but some of that is part of the consolidated dispatch. So that's why we didn't fund that separately. We will do that as we move forward on a consolidated dispatch. And he understands that, but, you know, a lot of the department heads, and I just want to make a general statement, when they put in a request, they really, you know, take ownership, and they need to let everybody know this is what we really need, you know. And so it is a need, but, you know, as you know, we have 11 million. We can't just fund the 11 million. So we do have to make those decisions. But, you know, they feel strongly that, you know, they want to put in a higher request knowing that we might not be able to fund it to that amount. We made, you know, on vehicles, 5 police cruisers were requested, and we'll fund 3 of them. 2 of them will be equipped, and the other one, we have equipment from another cruiser that we will put into that new cruiser. Also, we are trying to move some of this into the operating budget, because police cruisers are something that we need to fund every year, you know, so some of that we are trying to transfer into the operating budget. I'll just go over some of the, you know, we'll fund some security cameras and some security gates. Another big ticketed item was the fire engine. We will fund that, requested $675. You know, the fire chief also had some other requests, but we're really making some headway on his capital plan with the fire engine. And the number one priority was a software system for his fire alarm dispatch and some tablets that they have to keep, you know, in the ambulance, and that's for the $90,000. And then updating the self-contained breathing apparatus in the fill station.
Jennifer, with the fire engine, is that something that's done on a lease purchase, or is it an outright expense?
It's an outright purchase.
An outright. Is it better to do an outright than a lease purchase?
In my experience, when you have the cash, it's always better to do an outright purchase. Lease purchase, it usually gives you the access to capital immediately. It can be looked at as a borrowing authorization, which really we don't want to do because you have to go to town meeting. You might get a little bit more sooner, but you really don't own them. And you know, when you have the cash, you really just want to buy them.
Okay.
A lot of communities that can't afford doing it this way, they will either do a lease purchase agreement, or they'll actually borrow for several capital needs and pay interest on them. In the marine environmental services, we will continue to fund the $50,000 for the dredging and some float replacement, and we will replace 2 vehicles. So we move down to the public works. Did you have a question?
I had a
regarding
question
ESCO?
on the ESCO project. That, what's happened with it?
Okay, so we moved the HVAC controls from the rec center. They needed some upgrading, and that is, even though it showed up in the capital plan, I want to show that we moved it into the ESCO, and it is part of the ESCO project, so that's why you won't see it funded in the capital plan. But I like to note that, so, you know, everybody can see this was put in, but we did decide to put that in the ESCO project.
Has the ESCO project happened?
Yeah, we're in the process of actually making those changes now. I don't know if you want to give an update, Heather, on where we're at.
Is anything from the ESCO, is it in operation or started?
The construction and implementation is underway in a number of buildings throughout the town. school buildings primarily because we had targeted them for early action given the onset of the school year. So especially in HVAC areas, that's underway. And we also have some underway in town buildings, but it is, we could certainly give the board a comprehensive update on all those projects at a meeting in the near future.
That sounds like a good idea.
Heather, I think, might have a comment as well.
Well, just a quick comment. The single largest investment in the ESCO was at the G-Ticket School with their replacement boilers, and those have been replaced. It's not fully wired up, but that work is ongoing, and that significant investment has already been made.
Nice.
And they finished the windows at the Lawrence School?
We're still assessment, we just started.
Those are not,
They're not
those are not
under
an
ESCO.
ESCO project. That was removed from the ESCO list, so
Yeah.
that is on a different, slower timetable.
The school preferred to do it through MSBA?
MSBA.
MSBA rather than ESCO. So it's being done in a different manner.
And it'll be a debt exclusion for the balance of the money, more than likely. But it's going to come up probably in the Springtown meeting. But as well, there's an article to provide additional design money to meet the requirements of the MSBA Accelerated Repair Program. ARP, I think, is the acronym for it. So that's where that stands right now.
So no new windows at the Lawrence School yet?
Not yet, but it's not off the table. It's still being worked.
Well, it's about 3 years behind. It's raining inside. Okay. That's a disappointment. Okay.
Also, for facilities, we are recommending to make repairs to the police station roof. And also, we put some money, and recommending some money for the senior center building and grounds maintenance. We know that we're still working on, the senior center with feasibility studies that are ongoing. But we wanted to make sure we had some money set aside for the current building, since they will be there for a little while.
I noticed some of the children from the schools come over and plant flowers and work in the, do their projects, I guess, over there.
And then we can move to, on the highway department, we are recommending $50,000 for some equipment for the garage, for when they work on the vehicles, tire changes, upgrading a tire changer and getting a new tire changer for the larger tires, so they'll be able to do that in-house and not have to contract that out or send the vehicle out. And your road maintenance, construction, sidewalks, here's one, they did ask for $850,000. We gave them $400,000 last year. We have $200 here. We want to make sure we're funding it so we can keep up with the work. And so this seems that funding this amount was amenable to everyone making this request. For vehicles and equipment, we do have a few under the DPW because they do maintain a lot of the vehicles. We are requesting a new rubbish collector and a one-ton dump truck with a plow, I believe, and a pickup truck for the water department, and then also a Ford Focus, one of the smaller vehicles for the building department for their inspectors. So we are making some headway on our vehicles and equipment. The water department, we are requesting funding for $19,000 for evaluation on Crooked Pond. Our water meter replacement, now this is a program that we've been doing for a while, and I just want to assure everybody that we are continuing with that. Just because the request was for 125 and we're only funding 75, we are funding 175 through the operating budget. And so they are keeping up with that. We felt that we want to make sure they're able to keep up with it as we fund it, and right now 75,000 will still maintain that program and replace the meters. And then we requested $450,000. There was a general request for water mains, some water main replacement, and that's something that we definitely want to look at, just to have the money available. So maybe that might be a borrowing authorization, just so we have money available, so when they're ready, we can actually replace some water mains. This 450,000, though, is earmarked for the intersection up by Stop and Shop that they've been working on to replace the water mains up there. So that's for really a specific project. But we do, and just really a heads up, we do want to put something probably in April about, replacing water mains in general. We want to get on, that program. And as you know, we have been making great headway in funding our water stabilization fund, so we can at least have water self-supporting and, try to draw out the revenues from the general fund and put them in the water stabilization fund.
And this we have 4.5 million next year for water mains.
Yeah.
It's going to be challenging.
We have some money in here for bridge maintenance, for the Eel Pond Bridge down in Woods Hole. We also have for the coastal erosion, that $1.2 million that was requested from engineering and DPW, that was for over by Great Bay Road, to do a lot of work over there, but right now we're just requesting the $250 to do some of the drainage and to do the stairs down at Great Bay Road, and, to be able to keep up with that. So that was the, request in the proposed recommendation. And DEP compliance, we have, I think there's one more area that we need to be in compliance with, and we want to start, again, some of these that, from the requests from engineering, we are going to try to start moving some of this into our operating budget, some of these compliance amounts. Recreation is requesting, and we're proposing $50,000 for the upgrades to the Trotting Park Fields track. And that's, really needed over there. The beach, they did ask for $50,000 for dredging, but I do want to point out that we are putting $25,000 into the operating budget, and they do speak with MES, so when they are doing dredging and they're moving sand and maybe putting some sand places, they do coordinate that into different areas. And, I've had some preliminary discussions trying to get it in one area, but it's been in two areas for such a long time, that we're still kind of going down this road with the dredging. But there is $25,000 in the beach, in their operating budget.
Go back to our recreation for a second.
Sure.
Any idea, would this have been the time we would have put money in if we were going to do any renovation to the parking lot and the ground space that we heard 2 weeks ago about the area in front of the rec center?
I'm not.
I can answer that.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're currently exploring utilizing existing funds already set aside for that improvement. That's still a work in progress, but I'm guardedly optimistic that there are sufficient funds within the DPW budget to allow that to occur beginning this fall.
Great. Thank you very much.
Becky, on the Falmouth Heights steps, there's been discussion for over a year or so. I do see that you have put it in for FY16 for $36,000, but there wasn't anything for this year.
That was the request that came in from the
Yes.
beach through the DPW was requesting it in FY16. So it's not something, if the department heads do request it in FY16, we tend to leave it there. I know that there was some discussion at some point about, there was donations that might be available to assist in this, just from my preliminary conversations with the beach superintendent. But when the request came in, it was for FY16.
Okay.
What was the name of that fund?
Falmouth Heights.
Falmouth Heights steps.
No, I know, there was a fund, it was the Falmouth Heights Beach Fund that...
Yeah.
Oh,
There is a fund, correct.
I can bring it up to the beach superintendent again, that it was a matter of discussion, and see where that is. It was in the capital plan, but if there's something that they can do, and if there's, I know there are funds, we can discuss that.
Okay.
And we have, do we have something in the parks? Okay, I think I skipped over for parks. The Central Park basketball court is in desperate need of repair. So we are requesting that. And last, but not least, we are proposing funding for the Morse Pond School roof recoating at about $300,000, so we are proposing that as well.
Madam Chair, could I interject?
Sure.
A couple items? Just want to underscore for the board, as Jennifer's noted, total requests were nearly triple the amount of resources that we're able to bring to bear. You know, the good news is that through really conservative management and budgeting, fundamentally with the leadership here of the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee, we're able to have some resources, one-time resources and free cash to allow us to be in the $4 million area, subject obviously to Selectmen, Finance Committee, and Town Meeting approval. But what I do want to underscore is that you can take any single department in isolation and determine that, gee, I might like to give them X, Y, Z more, or trade around or move around. But I want to underscore that a lot of effort has gone into attempting to prioritize this. Is it gospel? Absolutely not. But it was a tough call because, again, requests, and you can look at any department and see that pattern presenting itself, that one can make a unilateral argument in any one department about, gee, we ought to have a much larger share of funds because we're in catch-up. But I know the board is fully aware that we're no different from any other municipality, frankly, in this country, that during the recent economic recession, reinvestment in capital fell away, whether it's school buildings, town buildings, infrastructure, grounds. Everybody's in catch-up. And we have to make some tough, disciplined decisions about a reasonable way over time to make up that gap. And nobody's going to make it up in 1 year, and only by all departments working together. And that's really the job of the administration, and that's what we're attempting to do, is in a disciplined, reasonable way, keep a balance among departments. And again, it's more of an art than a science. And as I say, any one department can say, oh, I think we got shorted this year, or maybe we got more than we expected, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a balancing act, and over time, my job and the job of my colleagues I work with is to balance this and do it in a reasonable, informed, and logical way. And that's why we take a look at a number of years at one time and try and make relative judgments about where do we think the priority dollars should be spent. But again, it's not a gospel, and we welcome input, thoughts, suggestions, but please understand that if you look at a department in isolation, department heads are asking about taking care of their piece of the world. And that's their job, and I respect it highly. But our job is to look at the big picture and say, well, where do we keep that balance? And so this is presented to the board, Finance Committee, and Town Meeting in that spirit of trying to balance it and recognize that every department has an important role. And if we continue to work together, we can really get some extraordinary things done. And I think, as Jennifer's commented, and I also want to thank Heather for all her efforts in this capital area as well, along with all the department heads. This is really an extraordinary step that we're able to take. And it's really on the heels of the Capital Advisory Committee. And Doug played an important role in that as one of the selectmen involved in it. And Brent also was heavily involved, as we know. And we really got a lot of insight and guidance out of that effort. And I think you're seeing that for the first time in this budget because we do have some additional resources to bring to bear. So thanks for hearing me out on that litany. But I do want to underscore that there's a lot of work behind these lines of numbers. And I wish we were a whole lot closer to that nearly $12 million or so in demands than we are with the 4. But a year or 2 years ago, the gap was much, much, much larger, as this board's aware. So we're very gratified we can begin to shrink that because we've been cautious and disciplined. And I tip my hat to all the department heads for their role in that as well. So thank you.
Sam?
I just want to,
Oh,
sorry.
Go ahead, Sam. And
I
then
just want to call your attention, there's actually a little article in the latest Massachusetts Municipal Association periodical called Beacon, you probably are getting copies of it, that actually echoes exactly what Julian is saying on a statewide level.
So,
and I just want to make note of the fact, because I often get calls about when are things planned to be addressed, and that this information is publicly available on the website. And in fact, I literally get out my computer and I pull it up, and it really helps with the knowledge and looking ahead and looking at the process in the cooperation. So thanks for all that effort, and anybody can look it up if they have a question.
And the difference between the 11 and the 4 is not as dramatic because of a number of things being moved to operating budget, a number of things being done by ESCO. It isn't 7 million
It
not
isn't
being funded,
quite,
it's
yeah.
really not nearly
That's true.
close to that, so I think that's really good too.
I know that one aspect of the budget has always been grants. And I know that we've accomplished a lot in this town with grant money. And then I think it hit rock bottom. And I don't know where it is now. I don't know if it's coming back. I don't know if we're being denied or we're not as dependent.
That's a great question and a great point. I would say that grants are coming back very slowly, but my major concern as town manager remains that our largest challenge continues to be unfunded mandates for which there are no grants available. Stormwater is an excellent example. Clean Water Act has a huge and very expensive mandate, part of which is reflected in this capital budget, but in a very modest way. But it'll be on a par with what we saw in terms of water and wastewater. It's really part of the Clean Water Act. It's the latest manifestation, so it goes back into the 1970s. But a huge responsibility there, and no easy answers about how that's to be funded. So we do in a very disciplined way, keep our eyes peeled. As the board's seen, some of these grants that we bring to you are awfully small. $1,000 here, a couple $1,000s there. And that's not because we wouldn't prefer to have ones of much larger size. Heather's working steadfastly on the CIC grant. Sometimes we think the odds are pretty long, but nonetheless, we're in the game because it's important to recapture as many of those dollars as we can. Sometimes we think these scales are tilted a little bit, and I don't mind saying that we think in that CIC area, sometimes the priorities are a little different than we would prefer to see. But nonetheless, we're in there competing, and as Heather noted on that one, for instance, we're closer to that $500,000 request area. We think what we have the potential to accomplish here with the board's leadership in terms of consolidated dispatch, for instance, is going to set a template for the majority of the communities in the Commonwealth. But that is not doesn't necessarily fit the one-size-fits-all regional kind of a concept as some individuals define it. Nonetheless, it would be a huge benefit, and we've already had more than one municipality in the Commonwealth ask us about how we're doing on that because they want to follow in our footsteps. So those are the kinds of things that we pick and choose, and if there are dollars there, it tends to move in that direction. The only other caution, and I don't want to be too wordy on this, but the one caution I want to give is that some of these grants have strings attached which are also troubling. And I know the board has discussed that in general, and that we need to be cautious that we're not moved in a direction that is not consistent with the strategic priorities of this board, because we've done you no favors if we've brought good news about capturing dollars that define a direction that you're not interested in. And I think that's the thing we also always have to be careful of, because there are ones out there that are driving communities in certain directions that may or may not be in this town's best interest in the judgment of this board, and you set that policy. So we try to be a little bit careful there as well, but it is a dynamic process, one we keep our ear to the ground. Something that, if I may, Madam Chair, one other comment I really need to make in that regard, because it's easy to miss. Tonight you approved applying, and the deadline is October 15th, state revolving loan funds. The town of Falmouth, because many people, I have a tiny role in that, many people have worked behind the scenes to position this town to conceivably get as low as a 0% interest rate in the state revolving funds. That is not a slam dunk. That's years worth of work. That's getting on priority lists. It's communicating regularly with individuals at the state level and making good decisions and allocating resources and spending dollars wisely so that we can absolutely minimize the cost of the taxpayers for those huge outlays for water and wastewater. And while that will not be an outright grant, a 0% loan is awfully tempting and awfully, it's something we really want to achieve. So that's something that the board approved tonight that I want to put in that win category because we are really battling to recapture those dollars, which should come back to benefit the residents of Falmouth, and we're going to make every effort to be successful there. So that's an example of one that quietly behind the scenes we've been working on because it's something that this board has outlined as a high priority, and we look for those dollars anywhere and everywhere. And I really appreciate Doug's comment as well that if there is a priority this board sets, if we find a way outside the budget or by utilizing a novel approach like ESCO to meet those same standards that can pull it out of borrowing in another manner or allow our dollars to go a little bit further, we're going to go down that road and talk to the board about that because what matters is meeting the priorities you've set and doing it in the most cost-effective way. So really, we have some department heads that are just phenomenal in getting that job done, and it's really a pleasure to be supportive of them in that quest. And I guess I wanted to pass it all along, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
You should probably mention the CPC funds as a way of supplementing some of these capital.
Point well made, yes. Excellent, Selectman Patterson. You know, that's another example where this town has stepped up, created a program which not every community does. The last community where I was privileged to be town manager did not have CPC funds. So they were really denied all the benefits, many of which Falmouth has seen by matching dollars coming in and by utilizing those wisely. And more recently, and I know Heather really spearheaded that on the staff level, over a year ago we began to identify town recreation, historic, and related structural projects that CPC funds could be targeted toward with the support of the Board of Selectmen. So what you see this year going to town meeting are a more significant assortment of town and school-related projects from CPC funds, and we really appreciate the CPC support and of that whole effort and working with us in tandem because it just doesn't fall out of the sky. We recognize that. So another great point. Thank you.
Doug?
I would move approval of the capital improvement program and refer it to the Finance Committee.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Nick.
Individual selectmen's reports. Who would like to, could somebody pass up the signatures wherever they are?
I guess I can start. I
Oh,
only
great,
have,
thanks.
you want me to start?
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see, I attended the Conservation Commission meeting on September 24th. They held a hearing on the Little Pond Sewer Project. I would like to commend Tom Caraveau for the way he conducted that meeting. He was very responsive. There must have been 35 residents from that area that, you know, have properties. We're asking a lot of questions that weren't conservation related, and since the GHD was designer of the whole project and kind of the project engineer was there, they were able to respond and answer some of those questions even though they were outside the scope of the committee's concern. I think I mentioned it before, but the two concerns that the Conservation Commission raised about this project were basically sediment runoff control and management and the dewatering of nearby wetland areas as a result of the excavation in the project. Those were their two concerns. And I think for the most part, GHD, you know, made them feel like they were going to be addressed as the project went along, and they were going to be monitoring these areas closely to make sure they weren't getting out of hand. I attended a CPC meeting on the 25th of September. They basically finalized the warrant articles, the explanation and recommendation parts as part of that meeting, just kind of working through it. You addressed one of the questions that came up relative to the supplemental funding for the irrigation system for the golf course. And the last one is just, I like three others of us. I attended that targeted watershed management plan review, draft review. So that's my activities. Anybody else?
I'll go ahead, Beth.
Well, no, I went to the FEF program that was over at the Artist Guild Wednesday or Thursday night. It's always good to see high school students and their work, and there's another place that they're giving grants into the school. Now, that wasn't one of my assignment liaisons, but you need to know how proud everyone is of those grants that come from the town. And oh yes, I guess the other was the wastewater. I knew I sat for a long time somewhere. But
The collaborative?
yeah.
I just want to make mention of the oyster harvest at Chappaquay Beach, which brings the program full circle. Sia Karplus made a terrific presentation in waders, and the Marine Environmental Services guys were there, Chuck Martinson, Greg Frazier, and lots of kids, Vicki Lowell, in fact, came with it was just people of all over Falmouth, older folks, younger folks, and it really was a very fun and exciting, kind of tangible result of all of these efforts, which have a lot to do with, complicated, provisions and legislation, and you really got to see the actual fruits from the sea of the labor, and it really was a rousing time at Chappaquay Beach. And the other thing I want to mention, another kind of farming, Smithfield Farms in Wacoit, they do a lot of community outreach. They do some things with the services, they do some things with handicapped folks, and this was just sort of a country fair on the property, and it's amazing the amount of volunteers, and there were just plants for sale and pumpkins and tractor rides, and it really was just a joyous, free, very October festive, on that one property. It just was really great. So thanks to Smithfield Farms as well.
Becky?
You and I were at the Wounded Warrior.
Oh, yes, we were.
Because I just looked back, and so I'm just thinking about that day. I think the thing that, because we were there last year, that everyone that was riding the bikes, the motorbikes, were Wounded Warriors, and I was thinking it was someone that was representing. It seemed as if we had kind of a mixed group last year, where this year it was just the Wounded Warriors themselves.
And there seemed a lot more of them this year, too.
Oh, I thought that there was. But I also went to the Council on Aging, and there's a little bit of anguish on when is this going to get moving? I think they're looking for some guidance from this group, and they've taken it as far as they can, and they're ready to go. And so this group has to somewhere start to give them some type of assistance or guidance or something. But that was most of their conversation.
And then the other night, we had the panel on the housing
Housing
plan.
forum.
Yeah, and I thought that went really well. I was surprised that as many people came, because it was pouring rain when we got there. But the room was really quite full, and I think there were, 7 or 8 people on the panel. And I think basically, a lot was covered. Mindy Todd was the moderator, and she always does a good job, keeping the conversation going. No solutions, but no one really expected that we would have solutions, but we certainly need to work toward them.
It was a great step.
Yeah, it was a good step.
And the Oyster Symposium, you were going to make
Yeah,
mention?
well, when is that? I've forgotten when that is now. It's in October.
Right, it's coming up at Seacrest Beach Hotel.
Beach Hotel. It's the next year in 2015, they're going to have the World Oyster Symposium here in Falmouth, which is really pretty amazing. They've never had it in the United States before, And so it's going to be in Wellfleet and Falmouth. Falmouth will be the educational part of it, use with a MBL and, USGS and all of the scientific groups. And the Wellfleet part will be the oystering piece. And that will be next year. But this, what day did you say it was?
I give my dates, I think.
You gave them to me.
Let me see here.
That's always
It's October,
dangerous.
Cape Cod Oyster Week is going to be October 18 to 25th. And it's the 6th International Oyster Symposium. And they are looking forward, and very proud to have Dr. Mori Katsuyoshi, who is the president of the World Oyster Society at the Oyster Research Institute, as well as Senator Dan Wolf, Andrew Nichols, who's a sculptor, who's going to do a large-scale oyster installation that's going to actually move. So, very big.
That's at the Seacrest. Right?
Yes.
And it's kind of this year in preparation for next year.
Exactly.
So, do you have the information on getting tickets or how that works?
I think that, well, they have a website, which is, I was going to see if it was listed in this email, but it basically, if you look up oystersymposium.org, you could find a lot of information. And Karen Dowsett is the symposium president.
Right. Yeah.
The October 27th meeting, I was going to address to Julian.
Well, we can move to that. That's usually the last on our
Okay,
agenda, but
fine.
we can do it, because we can do it now, and then Julian can give his report.
Okay.
We have scheduled for the remainder, I think, it's back here, the end of your report. They have, October 20th is the next selectmen's meeting.
Yeah.
And then we had scheduled October 27th as a special working meeting to meet with the committee chairs. And that's a problem for you.
It is.
Yeah. So I don't know if there is something we can do to change that or not.
If the board would prefer a different date.
Because we had it for the library already, right?
But I think maybe there's.
Yeah, we have a tentative hold, but we can move, if the board wants to move it around, we'll do everything we can
Well,
to do
what
that.
other options might we, to keep it in October?
But it's an awfully lot of people.
Hmm?
It's a lot of people if you're doing a committee.
Committee
chairman.
chairs, there's
Yeah.
about maybe
All
30, 35 people
right.
come.
Keep it on the 27th.
Keep it on the 27th?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were looking for a Monday night because other boards don't meet on Monday.
Well,
just
that's true.
The selectmen, that's the only.
Just go with it.
So you could maybe slide it back into November if.
No, just stay with
No.
it.
27th is
Yeah, we
your.
have the town meeting.
Okay, a town manager's report. I didn't want to leave you out.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Available.
Yes, we're very pleased that as the board's aware, replacement work on the deteriorated bluestone pavers in front of Town Hall occurred over the past week, and as the board's seen, we're delighted that that work has been accomplished. That's, the additional steps are being taken to replace some remaining areas downtown, and I think all agree that it's been an excellent transition. So we're very pleased that that's been accomplished here at Town Hall. And some of the exterior work continues at Town Hall and some of the other town buildings, which is evidence, of dollars set aside for building maintenance and a fair amount of catch-up underway for reasons we've already mentioned. I also want to mention that Board of Selectmen Chair Pat Flynn, Town Council Frank Duffy, and I met with Board of Health Chair Jed Gladstone and Health Agent David Kerrigan within the past week to discuss multiple issues related to the commercial trash pickup at overnight hours, an item that has played itself out in public comment here, I believe, on at least 3 separate occasions with the board, with residents of some neighborhoods who were affected by the noise of dumpsters banging in the middle of the night. The Board of Health agreed to take up the issue of noise in adjacent residential areas with a trash hauler and perhaps secure some variation in operating times. No final word on what that's going to look like. Review and discussion is ongoing, and I did give members of the board a copy of a letter that health agent that I received today that the health agent had sent out, indicating that at the Board of Health's next meeting on, I believe it's, they meet next Monday night.
October 20th.
As does this board, yes. That will be
That's not
discussed
next
with the
week or
haulers,
something?
so yes.
2 weeks from now.
Oh, pardon me, 2
The
weeks.
20th,
My
yeah, the
mistake.
20th.
Thank you. Yeah, 2 weeks from tonight on the 20th, the same night that the selectmen meet again, but 2 weeks hence, they will take that up with the trash haulers. I know that one hauler in particular was the subject of the concerns, many concerns raised here with this board. So I did want all members of the board to know that we're moving in the direction of encouraging an amicable resolution to that dilemma. There are some legal entanglements, so that's why we had town council available, because the Board of Health, as we understand and respect, has authority within certain areas to regulate things. We do have a town bylaw, and there are some overlapping areas, as town council has reminded us. So that's why we have all those individuals involved in this meeting. So we remain optimistic that people of goodwill are going to find a way to get that done and minimize that problem.
Quick question on that, and Mr. Dufresne reminded me today, I guess it's the Heights Association, if I'm correct, would be interested in receiving notice of this, since it was their complaint that, sort of gave this issue to rise. I know it seems to be a public meeting, but I wonder if the association representatives could be advised that this is coming up as an opportunity.
I'll be happy to let them know, yes. Yeah, great reminder, thank you. Also, I wanted to, as a reminder, I know we touched on that, the town council's announced public training sessions here in the Selectmen's meeting room. Frank does those annually on conflict of interest, open meeting law, and public records requests, set for Thursday, October 9th from 7 to 8:30. That's the evening meeting. And then, as has been noted, Tuesday, October 14th from 3 to 4:30 also in this room, to try and be at convenient times for boards, committees, and others who would like to attend and be updated on those subjects of constant interest.
And I might say, we have an obligation to do this annually, I believe, in order for us to...
Well, next year, you will be getting the information out from the state to be in compliance with the open meeting law and with the conflict of interest law.
Right.
And you have to take online tests.
Exactly.
And, you can't really, not pass, because you have to keep going until you get the right answer. But nevertheless, it's very helpful to hear Frank's
No, I think that's
presentation.
good, the one that you do the test. I think those are good
Yeah.
questions.
I just want to make sure that I've got all the documents here. I don't see any signed documents related to the parcels. The vote to, with the Falmouth Mall to convey the parcel and the easement. Weren't there papers related to, I don't know. Maybe there weren't. I just don't have any here. So if you kind of look through your, just to see if you
I don't
have it.
think there were.
There weren't any?
I think Frank
Okay,
was...
maybe, huh?
He just handed it out.
Yeah, there,
Right.
that's what I don't have that one.
But
There's
that's all,
2 copies.
I don't have this agreement signed.
that did not get distributed.
Yeah, I think
There we go.
Frank gave everybody a copy of this
He did.
just
Yeah,
before the
but
meeting
we
started.
need one
So we can take 2
we
of them.
need one that's signed, though.
Why don't we sign 2 of them if we might?
Yeah,
Okay.
good point.
Okay.
Here's,
Good catch,
the
Pat.
second one.
Yeah, great.
Well,
Thank you.
Gets in trouble.
sort of my job
Well
to
done.
make sure we have everything in hand here.
Thank you, Jim. This is
Rebecca, I
September.
almost signed your name.
Go right ahead.
I don't know.
We'll ask Frank
Go
about
right
that.
for the
ahead.
wrong-
I wasn't reading, I was going in order.
It's not a check or anything
No,
like that.
thank
so-
goodness.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, could I make one other comment?
Sure.
I just wanted to acknowledge your involvement in that housing forum as one of
Oh,
the
yeah.
distinguished panelists, as well as Karen Cardera, our
Yes,
Human
Karen
Services
did a
Director.
great job.
And it was,
Really
I know that serving on that panel really was a focal point for moving that discussion forward. So my compliments
Yeah.
to you and to
Thank
Karen
you.
for stepping up and being involved in that important session.
Karen had a lot of really good,
pass
well,
it
if you
over.
were there, you saw she had a lot of good information.
She did.
Is that everything.
Move to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Absolutely.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.